All right, what is up, guys, and welcome to another Group Up podcast. And today we've got the great role debate. So this is going to be it's going to be a hype one, another great debate. That's not my judgment on the quality. That's just the title. You guys will judge the quality for yourself. But how could it not be great with a lineup like this? So, in the bottom right of your screens is Yeatle, here to represent the tanks. Yeatle, what's up?
Yo, what up?
In the bottom left, here to represent the supports, KarQ himself.
What's up?
And in the top left, fresh off the rank queue, it is here to represent DPS, Jake. What's up, Jake?
How's it going?
You should have given that greeting in Korean, I think, just to
Oh yeah.
안녕하세요.
there we go.
That's
Mr.
right.
Mr. Worldwide right here. Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. 305, let's go.
All right, guys. So the way this is going to work is, like I said, each of these players are here to represent one of the roles in Overwatch. So we're just going to discuss the state of the roles in relation to each other. Those of you who've tuned in, we've discussed each of the roles individually. We had supports discussing supports, tanks discussing tanks, and DPS discussing DPS. But now I think it's time we get a good overall view, and these guys know their shit. So it's gonna be a fun one. But to start off, we're not going to talk about the role specifically. We're going to talk about something a little bit more time sensitive, which is the new patch. Guys, first of all, I just want to ask your overall general opinions of the new experimental patch. And just overall thoughts of it, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. We can talk through each of the changes, what you guys think. So who wants to go first up? General thoughts on the new experimental.
Hit scan party. That's my description. Hope you like playing snipers at top 100.
Or they tuned them all down though, did they?
Oh, you're talking about the experimental, or you're talking about the one that's like the
Yeah.
new patch that's live?
Experimental.
Okay. Yeah, well, rip hit scan. Not really though. I think it's still broken, but I think it's kind of interesting. They nerf like all the DPS. Some stuff that didn't make any sense to me, like nerfing Junkrat or something in Sim. I think those heroes are terrible, so I don't understand. But I think it's just like trying to go back on the GOATS changes that they tried to like make DPS more powerful, which obviously didn't work because it didn't really matter. And they're trying to like run that back a little bit now that 222 exists.
They're running it back while simultaneously rebuffing some of the tanks though. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're trying to put it in a state of equilibrium. They're also like touching the supports, right? Aren't they nerfing mostly Baptiste? The Ana changes or whatever.
Not
14.
that's not as big.
There's some more changes too. Weird
Oh
ones.
yeah, and the more changes.
Oh yeah. So does this
Yeah.
mean like the other ones are canceled, like the sticky orb and whatever is like canceled?
For the
think
time being,
so.
I think. For the time being, yeah.
I mean, I like that they're trying new things, and I like that they're nerfing the aimbot. It's like there shouldn't be aimbots, man. Like, I think that even like Soldier Roll should get reworked. It's just stupid. I think all the stuff in the game that gives you like aim blocking and like wall hacks on Widow, it's like the worst designs in the game. Just rework that stuff.
Yeah.
I kind
Yeah, I
of agree
remember-
with that actually.
Yeah, I remember last time you were on the Group Up podcast, you were like, wall hacks, this is just the dumb ultimate, change it. So
Yeah, they should rework it a long time ago, but it's like the definition of an ultimate that people in Plat don't think is good because people aren't hitting every shot. So it's like 90% of the player base. It actually isn't that good, but or they
what a
don't
bunch
use
of
all the
idiots.
information effectively.
Imagine not hitting a shot.
Yeah. Well, it's just like one of those ultimates that directly scales with skill to the point of like it's the best ultimate in the game, or not maybe not the best, but it's the most versatile ultimate in the game. I'll say at the highest level, where you can just always pop it. It's always good. There's no like restrictions on it other than you've already lost the fight.
Yeah, I mean, so before we get right into the nitty gritty of each of them, what I thought was really interesting about the changes was the little developers notes attached, and Blizzard basically dodged the two words themselves, that being power creep, but used every other terminology around it to suggest that they were aware that perhaps there had been some power increasing after the 222, and perhaps they needed to tone back this slow shift. I don't know what a word for it would be, but they might need to tone back the slow shift. So do you think that, well, first of all, do you agree with the premise that power creep happened? And two, do you feel this is a step in the right direction to pull it back? Yeatle, you haven't said anything yet, so you haven't. So
there's
I'll let you go.
definitely been power creep in the game. Like we've got all these buffs to like combat goats, and then goats is gone. We got roll Q, and you got all these overpowered heroes. And finally, like many patches later, people are kind of toning down on playing Orisa, where they were always playing her at the beginning, right? So I think power creep's definitely in the game. Like who was playing Orisa before like during open queue and whatnot, stuff like
Mm.
that. So I think, I think power creep's a thing. What was the second question? Sorry.
Well, do you think this is a step in the right direction, pulling it back?
Oh yeah, for sure, easily. I think there's no question to that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think recognizing like a lot of heroes that got multiple buffs in a row, and then even just turning back one or two of them will kind of like put it in the right spot. Like kind of like with Ashe, I think they're reverting her back to 12 shots. But then before that, she had like 3 consecutive buffs, right? It was like the unscope into scope, scope into unscope sort of animation. They fixed that and made it a lot more fluid, which is a natural buff. And they gave her 3 more shots, and then what was the other one that they added?
Those are the buffs, I believe. Like they
Oh,
nerfed
two, then.
Dynamite as well, but when they buffed the gun, they buffed the gun in 3 ways, which was I believe those 3 ways. I think there was like a reload change actually as well. It was like the scope and like the scoping man versus unscoping shots having the unscope delay instead of the scope delay. That was like one change, and then there's I think the reload, either it starts faster or like each additional bullet comes faster. I'm pretty sure they buffed reload as well from the initial launch of the hero, which matters a ton on her, obviously, like based on the nature of the reload.
Yeah. I think Blizzard always forget, or maybe they don't forget, but it's usually like an oversight where if you buff like one thing, there's actually like another indirect buff in ultimate charge, right? If you're buffing like 3 aspects, like the 4th buff would be like gaining your ultimate a lot faster. Like I just noticed Bobs were coming out way faster than ever with all the changes as like as a result of all these buffs. And then if you're gonna take power away, conversely, or you nerf something, the opposite effects, right? But the opposite applies where ultimates will be slower to build as well. So
yeah, it happened a lot in the Genji buffs right now, where it was like they buffed him and then Dragon Blade was also coming out like way faster than you would have previously expected. And obviously with the Nano Blade meta anyways, people were like, what the fuck is this? This is a Dragon Blade every fight. Like this is stupid.
yeah.
I think one thing though I don't like is one particular type of change as a DPS player that I just think is like a very bad way to change heroes is like nerfing fire rate. I think that's just a really bad way to change heroes because it just ruins your muscle memory. It's like you have to just like learn the hero again, and it feels bad. It feels like buffing fire rate is like okay, I guess, but you better be sure because I think nerfing it is just so bad. Like, I mean, I would rather they just make Dragon Blade like literally 30% more expensive, and then the Shuriken changes because the problem is that it makes Genji more like when people don't like the blade, well then like why are you nerfing the shurikens, which is like the high skill, exciting, interesting part of the hero. Like I agree, playing a lot of Genji, I don't think blade's the most interesting thing, but when you nerf the ability to play the game without blade, then it's like guess the play style, it's farm blade again, like where you could just make the blade a lot more expensive. Like I think they should do more with, and same for the McCree change. Like I like the Ashe and the Widow changes, because Widow at that point, like before, was literally the only hero that does anything at 85 meters. Like there's just no other pick. So on maps like Junkertown, it's like Widow will be broken forever because there's just nothing else that can do damage at that range. So I like that nerf. And I don't hate the Ashe nerf, but I hate the McCree nerf because it's like McCree just feels so shit to play because you shoot really slow.
I can vouch for fire rate, man. I know they buffed Hog by giving him more damage, but immediately going from like that slower fire rate just didn't feel good. This just changes. Fire rate doesn't feel good.
A lot of they did a lot of fire rate changes on this experimental mode. It was like Hog, McCree, Pharah. I think they recently changed beforehand. Like they went back and forth on the Hanzo projectile change a few times and the McCree change. What else have they touched for fire rate in this game? They've done a lot, actually, for fire rate. The Genji, we list them all out. Baptiste fire rate.
Functionally, they changed Widows, but I think some heroes don't care as much. Like Widow with like the charge slower, and Hog, I think like heroes like McCree and Genji are like the absolute biggest deal to nerf the fire rate because the whole hero is about like killing people really fast and hitting 2 or 3 consecutive shots. It's not about damage over time. It's like consecutive shots are what matters. So when you nerf the fire rate, that feeling of like going in for 2 to 3 consecutive shots to try and get a kill, it just feels so different. And heroes that one shot, at least they're like, well, at least you can one shot somebody, right?
True.
Yeah, actually, we had Seagull on here with the great DPS debate, and he was saying like he hates Blade bot Genji. Basically, like he said he lost interest in playing Genji because he felt like more and more he just became a Blade bot. And he actually was suggesting that maybe Nano Boost should not buff the damage on Blade as perhaps a way of trying to combat that. But I mean, I do want to get through the Genji isn't talking about these things, so I do want to get through them. But what I'll do is rather than hover on each of them because some of them are quite minor, what I'll do is I'll say the buff or nerf, and I just want you guys to say yay or nay. If you guys say nay, we'll discuss it a little bit further. If you say yay, you're okay and happy with it. So, Ana's biotic rifle goes from 14 to 12. Yay or nay?
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Ash's max ammo reduced from 15 to 12. Secondary fire aim down size. Damage reduced from 85 to 80.
Definitely
Yeah.
yay.
Yay.
For
Definitely.
sure.
Yay. How do you feel about the people who feel like the dynamite is the more oppressive part of the kit?
I mean, it is good, but it's also a 12-second CD. It's like not that good on a 12 for being a 12-second CD. Like if it fails one time, I mean, you shouldn't get 2 in a fight if the enemy team plays fast. Like maybe you get 2 in a fight, but like you should never get 3.
Yeah.
So I think like just how slow the tempo is, and also, I mean, I think maybe the real problem with Dynamite is that the counterplay is on heroes that aren't good right now, like Diva. You just like completely hard counter it. You just like it never works against Diva, or like works 20% of the time or something if she's not paying attention, or you get just one person with it. And in all those circumstances, it's not that good of a skill.
So to chat asking, by the way, the chat asks, does the 85 to 80 reduce any breakpoints? I don't think so. I think with the mercy damage boost, it does if it's fall off, but in terms of full damage, mercy damage boost, headshot is still an insta kill.
208. It changes the breakpoint for 250 HP targets though. If you want to like shot melee, but that's such an edge case, it's not really that applicable. It's like okay, maybe Reaper and May, if you're like up, like the Reaper teleports in front of you, you get the scope headshot melee. It's 220 plus 30, but like the 220 becomes 208 with the 85 to 80 change on the damage boost. So
yeah, it would be
deal.
It would be very specific if Blizzard were like, "This is the fucking broken interaction. We need to stop right now." This Reaper TP.
I think it's just like an anti-tank DPS nerf, like because it doesn't really affect DPS kills or support kills. It's like she's just too good at melting a tank, which I think is probably true. And you're just sitting there firing headshots on Ashe, you kill tanks so fast. It's a little bit broken. So it only matters for things with very high health pools, which I think is actually fine.
It kind of changes like the distance you can get a headshot with damage boost. Like I went into the practice range and I think from like 20-ish meters you can't get a headshot kill, where I'd imagine as before you probably could have gotten to like 30 and still got the headshot kill. So there's a bit of a range, pretty reasonable range distance for the one shot.
Yeah, the implication's probably definitely more for the fall off than anything. Tanks and fall off distances, just to I guess tap into her mid to long range strength.
Yeah, overall, I guess Sniper is a little bit toned down. We'll see that later with the Widow as well. But okay, Batiste, secondary fire, grenade ammo reduced from 12 to 10, and regenerative burst, total healing reduced from 150 to 75, and now he receives twice as much. That just means that he still receives the same amount of healing, which is the 150, but everyone else receives 75. Yay or nay?
I'd like half of it. I like the regen burst, but I don't think BAP needs a nerf. I think like this is kind of like classic Blizzard balancing where they like nerf the shit out of double shield, and like that was what made BAP good. Yeah, like it's by far the best. Like there's no hero that's even close to good in double shields compared to BAP. I mean, like it's like you couldn't even. It doesn't really matter how you could nerf BAP twice as hard, and if it was double shield meta, no one would switch. So it's just a broken hero for this comp. But now that comp is not good anymore with the heavy nerfs. I mean, I still think Orisa's dog shit. Actually, even whatever the buff comes to her this one, I think she's still terrible. But like BAP won't even be good in dive comp. Like it's just inherently doesn't really work in dive comp.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's unreliable to shoot those healing grenades across. Like depending on where your teammates dive to, it's like you can still hit them obviously, but it's like a lot more unreliable. And then the regenerative burst, the only way to get value is to like use it before they jump in, so you have that lingering heal over time. But yeah, just like Jake said, naturally the strength of Baptiste's regenerative burst was the fact that double shield was a meta and everybody naturally played close together, that everybody was tagged by the regenerative burst because you have to be
everything in this kit, like window, drone, like everything wants your whole team to be stacked. And then in comps that don't stack, the hero is just like precipitously losing value. So I don't actually think he needs a nerf at all. But
yeah, I also agree with that. I don't remember BAP like actually being a must pick outside of like double shield or maybe like Orisa Hog once upon a time. I don't remember seeing that hero anywhere. So it's kind of weird. I don't think he needed the nerf there since double shield's probably going down under.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And no one weeped. But I actually saw something interesting, which was that the 75 healing from Regenerative Burst now is less than the Lucio passive heal. So someone was like, this is the most useless ability in the game now. Which is maybe a fair point to be made there. So yeah, let's see how if they put that through or not. Junkrat impact damage reduced from 50 to 40, total 130 to 20. Jake, are you sad?
I mean, memes aside, this nerf makes no sense. The hero's dog shit. Like, I don't understand why you Guys, it's actually unplayable right now, especially in the ranked meta right now where there's no shields to break. So it's like, I think it's like the worst it's ever been because there's no shield to break.
This and to be honest, throughout this debate, I will try and speak for our fellow gamers in Plat and the metal ranks in general, in where they would say, Jake, have you tried playing in Gold and Plat where Junkrat just fucks me all day long and he just
play hit scan, bro.
Click heads, bro. No, I mean I do think that this is more aimed at isn't aimed at the meta sniping. This is much more to do with the majority of the player base, you know, in the metal ranks from bronze, gold, silver, platinum, who, yeah, for whom Junkrat is still a very real and ever lurking problem.
All right, I can understand that. I mean, the hero's unplayable with or without the nerf, so it doesn't really make a difference at that level.
He's dead to you either way, so he may as well die
rip.
a little harder for Plat.
Rip.
KarQ Yeatle, how do you feel about it?
I mean,
sorry, I'll let you go. No, you go.
No, you go.
I think I've heard from, or I've seen tweets from PvP, also a Junkrat player, saying that you can't do, if somebody's trapped, you can't just one tap them with the primary fire anymore, and it kind of changes the primary into conk interaction. I don't know if it's a needed nerf or not. I honestly can't say, but I think honestly I don't think it's a needed nerf. But
wait, how much does trap do if you walk into it? Is it 70 or 80?
Chat, help us.
I think it's 80, but I think the idea is that like most people are getting 1 point of healing before you can combo them.
80, say chat.
I think I heard, I think I remember there might have been a bug. 80. There might have been a bug where like, yeah, if they even just get.
But like, I mean, most like think about how many like passive healing sources are in the game, or
yeah, that's true.
Or if you actually have to left click the trap, it's always going to take too long. Like if 1 point of health is enough to survive. So yeah, versus 10, which is like you've got that 0.2 seconds to get your damage in. Yeah. Like if someone's getting mercy beamed and you have like the conk in the trap, you just instant death. It still is not going to be in time because your reaction time is not 0.
I don't think this nerf was needed. It didn't feel like Junkrat was like,
or just something like nerf tire, make it build slow or whatever like that. Like if you need to nerf the hero, or nerf the splash instead of the direct. Like why nerf the direct over the splash? Like
the direct's the harder one to hit anyways. So
exactly. Like the splash is like the annoying. Well, it's like the of the two elements of the damage. It's like, well, there's hitting directs is harder than splashing people. So
it's the one that like probably the metal ranks would complain more about. It's like just randomly walking and just consistently taking a little bit of splash here and there, and then randomly getting directed, obviously. But the splash probably adds up more.
So you guys would rather the changes be focused on it's like scalable changes essentially, so that where a really skilled Junkrat would still be like, that's fine, I'll hit the shots anyways, whereas the bad Junkrats who rely on the shitty aspects of the kit would be the ones who suffer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and also to add on that point, anyone in the metal ranks, I think one of the things about Junkrat, for the people who do complain, is that part of your pilgrimage of getting through Platinum is learning how to not die to Junkrat, so he's a bit of a barrier check in that way. So if you are suffering, and I think if you hear any of us say he didn't need this nerf, maybe we need to change that. That's why, because once you learn how to not walk into that fat little grenade, then the whole new world will unlock in front of your eyes. Not to channel my inner Aladdin fan. Okay, going to McCree now. The fire rate change, which Jake you talked about. So it's going to be slower, basically, in between shots. Thoughts?
Big nay.
Nay. I don't think he needed it.
I'm okay with it.
He's even good.
The tank main in there's like, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, man. McCree does so much, especially if you get damage booster or whatever. That guy hurts.
Yeah, I think he does pound.
I feel like the time when they gave him that the fire rate buff, he was already like low key kind of slipping into meta. I think at the time it was Diva, Reinhardt, Kree, and like something else.
And
It was
Meg.
like a small little meta in between double shield. And I think then they gave him that buff, and everyone was just kind of like, wait, why? He's already kind of good. I don't know. I personally, I like it. I like that they're toning that back.
I think they should just nerf other things, like give the flashbang 2-second CD plus, like make roll 1 second CD longer, make the reload take more time, like nerfs that just don't make him feel shit to play. Like maybe he does need a nerf. I don't actually even think he does, but that's also my perspective is like looking at the high level where you just can't play against snipers because the hero is so easy to headshot because his head hitbox is massive that like you just lose the snipers. So yeah, like I don't know. I would rather nerf. Like I always prefer nerfing like the low skill aspects of the kit, like flashbang or whatever. Like make it more punishing to miss flash, longer CD. Make the flash stun last less time, so you have to be quicker on the headshot, or you can't do the 2 headshots thing, so you can like kill even like tanks when you flash them if you're really fast on the headshot. Although I don't love that change, because I like the flash duration as it is. You have to be like almost instant with your first shot to get 2 shots while the stun is on. But so I think that's okay. But like make the CD longer or whatever. Like that's a big nerf to McCree if you make the CD and flash longer, like or roll 1 second longer. Like those nerfs will actually hurt really hard on the edge cases, but it just doesn't make the hero like feel sloppy to play, you know?
Yeah, I guess I get that. Making it less fun by toning back the fire rate probably isn't the play.
Yeah, I actually hate the right click the most. Speaking of unskilled aspects of it, it's a pet peeve of mine, the right click. So
yeah, nerf the right click. Make the right click have bigger spreads. You got to be like point blank for it to work. Boom. People can't do it at mid range, like at flash range, it won't work anymore. You have to actually headshot on after flash.
Yeah, exactly.
Or some delay where if you want to flash right click, it like doesn't work or whatever. I don't know.
I think this is for the this applies to the hog change as well. But like you said, the changes when you change someone's fire rate, it makes them feel really clunky in a way, and that I think is intangible as a nerf or a change or anything. It just makes things very weird. So yeah, I'm never a big fan of that myself either. But okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, so the Mora changes are very interesting. So quite a lot to unpack here. The lingering healing reduced from a total of 65 to 35. Healing per second increased to probably compensate. And the healing resource consumption rate is also increased from 11 to 14. Damage attach angle, so this basically means that you have to be more accurate with the suck. And healing resource gain rate increased by 50%. So that means when she is sucking, she gets her heal back quicker. So yay or nay?
Yay. As long as you nerf aimbot, I don't give a shit about the rest of the hero.
Yeah. I tried it. Like the lingering thing is good for like downtime. A lot of people like already forgot about, or like they don't utilize it effectively anyways during poke phases to kind of like sort of whatchamacallit,
conserve
it or manage your healing resource. But now that they're buffing it like mid fight from 65 to 70, it's actually not too big. I think it used to be 80, didn't it? And then it nerfed it down to 65. Now they brought it back to 70. So during the team fight, it will be a little bit more potent, but the consumption is faster, and then they just like make up for it by, what is it? Increasing the gain by 50%. So I actually tested the multiple input bug versus this one, and the multiple input bug is still a bit faster than this. If you
so
guys,
just to clarify, KarQ, do you want to explain to everyone when you spam it, basically, right? Do you want to just?
Yeah, exactly. You just spam the input of your right click or your biotic grasp for the console players, the sucky thingy. I don't know how fast you can spam on like a controller, but on like PC, if you bind it to like mouse wheel, which is what a lot of Moras do, you just like roll the mouse wheel down and it'll like just tick, like it'll just do a ton of inputs rapidly, which would regenerate your healing resource like 50% faster at the expense of doing a lot less damage. Because every time you spam that input for the faster healing regeneration resource, you just tickle them. But like you would find uses for it, because like if it's a fortifying Orisa or a nano target in front of you with a lot of damage reduction or armor, like the damage was, negligible at that point. You just basically did it for your resource. So if you know that trick, like even the healing resource gain rate is not like, it's nice, but you would still use this input trick because it hasn't been patched in like 4 years. So
I mean,
At
that
this
should
point,
just
it's a
not
tech.
exist. Like it's sort of like super unintentional stuff that,
Yeah,
my
but
opinion, is not
that's what we call
healthy.
text. That's what we call text, right?
Yeah, I don't mind stuff
Unpatched
like that though.
bugs.
I don't mind stuff that like only the players who are versed with the hero will know to exploit. Because I mean,
Yeah, I
most
mean, I don't
Moors
like that
most
tech.
Moors
I don't
don't give
mind
a
some
fuck,
tech, but that's a tech where you have to rebind keys. I think I'm not a fan of anything you have to rebind keys to do. Like
or just
rebinding
right click really
protocols.
fast, Jake. Just right click really fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't work if you do that. You're not fast enough. So
That's the thing; they're not
like,
consistent
yeah.
with it because they got rid of it for Lucio for instant speed.
Yeah.
Like 3 years ago, I remember a lot of Lucio.
and like they made like
that.
the jump, like the jumping thing, right? With Lucio, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, so
I
if
don't
they
know, I'm
did
not a
that,
fan of
then
things you have to rebind for. I like techs that are like just high skill to execute, but that's like it's not high skill. You have to rebind the mouse wheel and scroll the mouse wheel
Fair.
instead of
Yeah.
right clicking. Like I don't
That's
know.
fair.
Like it's not like Doom or Hammond text. You have to like you just go a
Actually,
certain
double
way
do.
and then it works.
Yeah.
Like it's like that's like a skill thing. That Mario thing is like you just have to know about the bug, which
Hmm.
I don't know. Not my favorite thing to exist in the game. I guess you could argue Doom is like that too, but at least the techs on Doom make some modicum of sense. Like it's you don't have to rebind keys. You can just play the Euro default, and there's just certain interactions with geometry. Same for him.
Mhm.
Simple geometry.
I'm a big fan of the lingering effect change. I think that one's kind of underrated because there's so many times where I'd go into a 1v1 thinking, okay, I have this much health, I can win it just like barely with a scratch, and I don't realize that this dude got like one puff cloud from Moira, and he's still getting healed 4 seconds later, and
Yeah.
boom, I lose. So I think that's huge from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. It's great. I love it.
True.
Yeah, it makes it more obvious when the player's getting healed or not healed, which actually makes total sense. Like that should always be obvious. There shouldn't be. It's like this part of the reason why Brig was so stupid and still is kind of stupid. Like you can't actually tell if you don't see the armor pack come on. It's like unless you're
Yeah.
watching the health bar, you don't. It doesn't. It's not obvious they're being healed.
Yeah.
Even the inspired,
Inspire,
nuts. Yeah, they
Oh,
can
yeah.
go around
Tell.
a corner and then they're still getting healed. It's crazy.
She could be dead and they're still getting healed.
Yeah.
Probably.
The animation is there though. Like if you sit there, but it's so subtle, like you won't notice it in the heat of a battle. It's like the little tiny like yellow glow on them, and there's actually a sound. It's like, but you
I
know,
don't even know that. Never. There's a sound
For when
for
you
it.
for when you got your headphones turned up to like crank up volume.
Yeah.
If you really look, there's tiny little like pluses on them when they're getting
Yes,
healed.
actually,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You have to really look for that.
But yeah, that's not really a world we want to live in. I think where we just like squint into the screen for tiny little pluses.
Yeah.
But having played a couple games on experimental, it feels like this is going to punish bad Moiras basically, and not really affect. To be honest, it felt like it was easier to keep charge, to keep health resource if you just were managing it properly, because the regain rate is so fast now that it's just like just a few taps and then quick right clicks, and you can actually just manage it really easily. So I actually think it is actually easier to heal for longer, which is a good thing. But I think bad Moiras will feel this because they'll be like, my juice.
Yeah.
I think Moira's a hero that's just like it's just very limited hero though. The problem with Moira I think is like regardless of like buffs and nerfs is that the hero just like has one play style, which is like heal grouped up allies. Like there's nothing else you do that's efficient at least. Like beyond like pub flanking or whatever. But like
Flank
in terms of
Moiras.
like what actually makes the hero good is like survivability and like the best heals in the game if everyone's stacked. But if people are not stacked, it's like the worst heal in the game. Right, like because you have to be super close to them. If you're healing like one Roadhog, I mean, it's just like not good compared to being basically any other support. But when you're healing Reinhardt, Zarya, Reaper, and Mei, it's pretty fucking good. So I just think that hero. I don't know. I want to see them like it's like a change they'll never do because I think the hero's popular at like lower SR, but I think like just make the heal like way more like long range, but way more like. Small AoE. Like you have to actually like stay on target, track them, and you could give her a serious range buff if you actually gave her that sort of nerf. But I don't think they're gonna do that.
One thing we
Pyro
discussed. Sorry to cut you off, DJ. So one thing we just discussed in the great support debate was, and this is my opinion, but like I think it's okay to have heroes like Moira who are like easily accessible. But then basically the counter to that is they should just never be anything above average. Like they should just always be a hero that gives you like a medium output. Like so Moira will never be meta. Like she'll never have to be a must pick at pro level or top 500 level. But if you're new to the game or if you just don't have a lot of mechanical ability, let's say, or you don't have a lot of time to, let's say, grind a hero and get good, well, pick this hero and she'll always do like a decent amount of healing. She'll get like, what kind of value you're going to get, but that's it. So I would be fine if Moira was in that zone. I think we get in the problem areas when basically she ever needs to be picked by anyone in like top 500 or at Overwatch League level.
I think that's fair. Like, I don't have a problem with heroes that are accessible as long as they don't like bully other heroes. Like Brig being accessible is fine, but if it's a must pick for everyone, that's not fine.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, let's move on to then Orisa. Halt radius increased, projectile speed reduced, yay or nay?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The nerf was like, the hero was
She's kind of
unplayable after the
gutted. She's
first
kind of
nerf.
gutted.
Like,
Yeah.
like zero value hero, in my opinion. Because the halt just doesn't work. Like, it actually just doesn't work, man. Like, if
So
they just
tiny.
have good movement, yeah, you're not getting anybody with that. And it moves so fast, it was actually too hard to combo. I think that's like a major problem. Like, you don't have time. You have very little time on like Sigma or whatever. Like, you can't react in time. Like, even if you press E, like the moment it comes out, the rock is like not getting there in time. And part of the thing with the slower halt is like, yes, it's slower, but like you have a lot. Like the combo is much easier to do when it's more visible as an ally. Like you have time to like, oh, halt's going out. I'm gonna get ready. Widow, I'm gonna get ready. And then like, if the less time you have to get ready, it also actually hurts you, despite it being like better or whatever, because it's faster.
Yeah, the idea was like they couldn't react to it, but then it got to the point where your teammates couldn't even react to it as well. So
5 head. No one reacts to it now. But yeah, this is like another version of the fire rate changes that we were talking about. Like sometimes if you change the rate of something, it throws off a lot of things you didn't expect it to do. Like you were saying with the flashbang cooldown, Jake. Like now you just can't get 2 shots in, and that's probably something they didn't actively think about. And I think Halt is a great example of like, it's funny because we've been on like whenever we've done this podcast, people have been like, Halt is the most broken ability in the game. Like everything just revolves around Halt. And now we've changed it very slightly if you think about it in the large scheme of things. It's like it's dog shit now.
I wouldn't say it's slight.
Okay, yeah, okay, maybe not. I'm being kind here.
From the original to the first nerf was, I believe, like an 80% volume reduction.
Yeah, the volume is definitely good, but the speed,
which is like, I mean, that's like the whole ability is volume. Like that's what makes it good. So if it doesn't do that anymore, like you can't shoot it over a shield and pick somebody up over the top of the shield, that just doesn't work anymore. Then like, I mean, 80% is a shit ton. Like in terms of grouping up a whole team, it's now you're lucky if you get one person. So I think 5. I like that they're doing it by ones. Like let's not go too crazy with it. That ability is not fun. So don't make Orisa. I think Orisa is in the Moira category of it's fine if it's okay. Just it should never be a must pick hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeatle as a tank, how do you feel about all this as the tank representative?
Oh man, I'm sure everyone in the tank community is happy that Orisa is like not the must pick anymore. For sure, Halt straight up best ability. Like you comboed Doomfist Punch, you comboed Sigma, you comboed everything with that thing. Thing's nuts. But yeah, I can see like make it more fun, make it slightly more actually. You can actually pull people with it rather than getting one guy and that's it. But strong ability, you can combo ultimates, you can slow down rotations. It's insane. But yeah, I think it's fine if they're slowly trying to make it better again because it's very bad.
Yeah, I think we'll probably one day we'll keep creeping it up until suddenly everyone realizes this shit is broken again.
Double shield
Back to normal.
I mean, what's Zarya's radius to pull on a grab? Like, really, is anybody can anybody pull those numbers?
6.
You want to
That's
say
just
it's 6?
my memory about the game is 6. I have no idea, but
The fact that it was 7 for so long was ridiculous.
yeah, it was bigger than grab. I think that was it. It was like slightly bigger than grab, which
Okay. So putting it down,
So it's like this
slightly
ultimate
below
or
it.
this one little
It's like,
Orby
yeah,
boy.
Why play Zarya when you could? That's when you could just play Orisa and grab every like 8 seconds or whatever,
yeah.
right? It was ridiculous. So putting it, I wouldn't even match it at 6. I think 5 might be the nice middle ground for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point, KarQ, because like I think we sometimes it's easy to forget that there are other similar abilities, and we don't want one cooldown to be better than like a whole ultimate, for example.
Yeah.
And grab has like the CC factor, and you can't use movement abilities out of it. So there's reasons that grab is better, but it shouldn't be close, right? Like it shouldn't be.
No.
Oh, for sure.
The other problem is for Sigma is a hero like Sigma, or sorry, for Orisa is like a hero like Sigma, which makes the halt into this death CC where like now instead of just getting halted into a group and then you can split up on the halt, like after it finishes, you're sig ulted and you can't move from that small clump. So now you're in a clump, but you're up in the air or whatever, but like you're still in a small clump, so you're still eating a ton of AoE from like Sigma himself and whatever. He just hits everybody. So like you turn what should have been a very small time duration of grouping into now the sig ult CCs you there. So it like sort of removed the downside of the halt only lasting for a second, at least when you're sig ulted on the combo, or stuff like Dynamite, where it's like you don't care if they split up after, you're still hitting 6 with Dynamite. So like those sorts of things like made, I think it's one of those classic things where like the high skill, like you don't need a lot of time for the combo to work. You don't need the full duration of Grav 9 times out of 10 to like actually kill the people in Grav. You know, you just need that first second to just group them and destroy them with AoE super fast.
Yeah, because unlike in, let's say, the metal ranks, you're not reacting to the visual. You've already told your teammates it's going to happen, so you don't need to, oh shit, someone grabbed, try and follow up. All right, so Pharah, recovery rate again. So we kind of touched on recovery rates, but yay or nay?
This is the old
Big
rate,
nay,
right?
man. Big nay. I think they nerfed it from, what was it? No, I'm thinking of the McCree change. It's like,
Everyone said it used to be 0.85, then they buffed it to 0.75. Now they're just
they made it faster, and then they made it back to slow again. I hate this change. Pharah is such a bad hero. Actually, it's I mean, this is like a metal ring change in my opinion. It's like this hero is really bad because the problem with Pharah is that she's like a spam hero, and like good hit scan you just can't play against like a really good Widow. It's like, all right, just don't pick this hero. So I mean, that's always going to be the problem if they balance for the metal ranks. Is like these heroes are never going to be good for high level players if they keep like Junkrat and Pharah are like, and Pharah's been unplayable for a long time, I would say, in like high level. Like you only play it in like the 2 maps you can hardcore abuse geometry, like Eichenwall and Oasis and Lijiang or whatever. Where there's like super broken geometry you can go to the skybox on, and then like other 80% of the maps you cannot touch the hero.
I'm gonna be a different guy and give it a yay, because I think the recent buff they gave her, like if I understood correctly, she can like 80 straight better midair, right? So she can like kind of combat the hit scans better. And I think it's totally okay for yeah. Well, I think it's totally okay for like a hero like Pharah to be niche and be good on those set maps rather than every single map. Because I know if you talk to the console players, I don't know if it's still a problem. Console players or low elo players, killing those Pharah is pain in the ass. So I think Pharah not being like a meta pick is okay, in my opinion.
Yeah. I actually think Pharah and Junkrat should both get a console change the same way Torb was nerfed on console.
Yeah, like I would say,
I think those heroes should both get a console nerf because all the console players think they're OP, which they probably are. Because if you can't aim hit scan super well, then like they actually are not. Like that is the counter on PC is a really good hit scan, and if you can't aim like super precise hit scan because you're on a controller and like hit really fast flicks on Pharah, then if you're relying on body shotting her basically instead of headshotting her, then like she is OP, right? So like maybe she should just do less damage on console, like like give her a very real nerf on console. Because I've heard the same thing that it just dominates console. It's like the best hero by far on DPS.
Yeah, I think the way the spread works in PC, where it's like at Diamond people start getting good enough to hit her. I think it's like a more exaggerated version on console. At least this is my understanding, that it's like now it's like GM and Master until you actually get hit scan on console who can hit her. But are you in favor of like generally having quite different patches for console and PC? Because that's something I get asked about a lot.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
The game's different, man. You get an aimbot on one, and you don't get an aimbot on the other. So probably shouldn't balance those the same. I'm not
like, didn't they change Ana because she had like such a low pick rate? So they made it so that her like shots on allies had like a huger aim assist to it, or a bigger hitbox or something like that. Yeah, because everyone was picking Ana on PC, like she was meta, but nobody picked Ana on console at the time. So I think it's fine.
Actually, like to counter this, I mean, Jake, you played both iterations of Pharah, right? Like both this speed and the previous speed. I've heard like some Pharah players say something about like having it slower helps you like aim each shot a bit more versus just like strictly spam. But I guess it would like buff and nerf depending on your playstyle. I don't know if that's like a
I think it made the Pharah duel like a lot more fun, in particular to have the fast fire rate because 2-shotting is a lot more realistic.
Okay.
I think also the other problem with that, the mentality of like the slower being easier, is it's like, it's easier, but like the potential is lower. So if you're playing near the potential of the hero, then it feels really bad. But if you're not that good at the hero, then it doesn't, you're not bothered by having more time to aim your shots. But if you're like really good at just fast two-shotting people on like this max fire rate, then it feels especially punishing. Like I just don't like nerfs that hit the best players the hardest. I think they should always try to nerf heroes in a way that like allow the peak to remain what it was, but make it more difficult to access that peak.
That's a good point.
That's a good way to put it.
I like
yeah,
that.
I don't think anyone
I actually
would
like that.
disagree.
Yeah.
How would you approach Farah's balancing? Like, how would you change her, Jake?
I think the hero's terrible, so I don't think she needs a nerf at all. Like,
As in, so how
I
would
think
you like?
literally
How would you
nerf
make her
on
not
console.
terrible?
Oh, I think one change I was thinking that she does like really need is like I think they just need to honestly might need to rework Mercy as well. I think like the number one problem with Farah is that it's like an unplayable hero without Mercy, and then with Mercy, it's like actually good in certain situations. It's like way too like I don't like that's healthy for the game. Like the same is true for Sigma and Orisa, where it's like those heroes are just so much better when you play them together. Their synergy is just ridiculous. Like I think you should try to find ways to make the synergy not as good, so that the heroes can actually be buffed and find ways to be played in other in other sorts of strategies. Like for Farah, I think they like actually a lot of people complain about the booster nerf. I think it'd be more fun if the hero was just like more agile and less perma flying, because then you're less reliant on skybox geometry and you're more like trying to jump in and like bomb on the enemy and go for fast kills and stuff. But the hero's hitbox is like way too big for that to actually be a good play style, even if they give her more movement or something. So personally, I don't think she actually needs a change right now. Beyond like actually, I think the actual right way to do it is actually nerf her on console, and then you can actually buff her on PC and just separate the two, because she seems like the hero I don't play console, but I've heard by far the most about. Wow, this hero's so broken on console, and it is it's been bad for a very long time on PC. So I think that disconnect is like equivalent to Torb, if not more.
I've got two suggestions. One from chat, one that is an ill thought out suggestion from me right now. So I want all you guys' opinion on this. Firstly, on the Farah herself, chat are suggesting some variations of either replace some of her HP with shields or armor. So how do you guys feel about that? Because that would mean
like
that she would theoretically have to less
Shields.
rely on a healer.
Shields, yeah.
Shields.
Yeah.
No more
I
armor.
think she
dude.
could also be a 225 HP hero or 250 HP without actually being good on PC. I think that would for sure make her broken. I mean, she's already broken on console, right? So that's the type of change that should not go through on both platforms. But
Yeah, 250 would
Yeah.
change a lot of breakpoints for a lot of the hit scans. Like when I'm
yeah, it's a
playing
game
Ana,
changer fighting hit
yeah.
scan.
So that's why. I
But the
think
problem
shields
is
might
maybe
be
she
okay.
just OP because of the Mercy pocket. So I think like some way to nerf the Mercy interaction with her.
This is where I got you. This is where I got you. How about if Mercy, like, there's like a fall off for how long she keeps healing the same target or attached to the same target?
Bro,
I think it's not terrible, but I don't like the how are you gonna make that, like what if you just like stop left clicking for 1 second, you go back to full or something, like
No, you probably
so
have to
it's
change
like,
target or something. Maybe it's like I'm literally spitballing. Maybe you have to like beam you have to build your beam off of other people again. So it's like if it's like Farah, it starts off 60, then it goes down to 40, then you have to go back and suck someone else's life out, give them 60, and you come back to the Farah.
yeah.
Just
I don't
detach,
like-
retach. You're gonna send the forums after you, man. You're just
Yeah.
like.
I know,
can make that
I know
like
I
a
should
more
never
engaging
utter
way.
words.
I think it's more like you could like what am I thinking? Like how do you remove this Mercy power spike from Farah? I mean, the problem is just that it's really Farah who gives so much to Mercy, and both ways around. Like the fact that you have this hero that can go into the skybox all day long means that Mercy can always escape from any bad situation because she just press shift to go to Farah, and Farah absolutely loves getting damage boosted and like spamming harder. You could give Farah something like fall off, but like buff her at close range, so she like wants to jump in and land right on top of people, and that's not something that Mercy actually wants to do. I think that would be the sort of stylistic change that makes the combo less critical.
Isn't that something they did though? Didn't they change splash versus directs at one point?
Yeah, they made the directs like better and splash worse.
Okay.
Which
the right
helped to
direction,
a
though.
degree, but I think you'd have to go even more extreme to make it like you'd have to like basically give her massive buffs to her damage potential, and then like make it so the gas like the gas runs out in like a second or something. Like you can't fly at all. I mean, I actually
More like Echo?
I think genuine, yeah, like basically you're cooldown reliant on flying, and you cannot stay in the skybox forever. But in order to do this, I think you need to make like the hitbox smaller. She needs like a ridiculous buff, or else because like her only playstyle is flying in the skybox for the first 75% of the fight, and then you go in for kills when you're basically winning, or when you're desperate. So I don't know. These sorts of changes would be like really drastic, more like a rework than a buff or a nerf, I think.
Yeatle, I think we cut you off there. I'm sorry, by the way. What were you saying?
I think I mean, I don't play Mercy, so I can't say 100% for sure. But I think it would definitely be pretty engaging to like have the Mercy have to choose who to heal and like have to manage that whole thing instead of just pocketing one person the whole time. Could be more interesting. I don't know. Maybe an experimental card, if anything.
And if you're gonna send some hate on Yeatle and I and spam our inboxes, please don't, forums. Please don't.
No.
It was an innocent suggestion. I didn't mean ill. Okay, so all right, moving on. We've got last three. So Symmetra, Photon, right click, reduce damage. Yay or nay?
I mean,
I do think that ability is a little stupid with how much damage it does. Like it's a little ridiculous per shot. But,
maybe the only 140 damage thing in the game. The
I think
highest
it
was
is. I think it's
Junkrat at
the highest
130.
damage projectile in the game. Like,
Yeah, it might
it's
be.
just a little ridiculous. Like, but I don't think Sim's good, so I don't know. I feel weird about these changes where like I don't like the hero, but I don't think it's good, so I don't know why you nerf it really.
I mean, if they're nerfing like all the DPS or nerfing a lot of DPS, I can see why they're going down that path. I did the numbers, and she can still like right click melee a tracer, so it doesn't change too many interactions other than I guess just that bit of damage here and there. Like if they're going the route of nerfing everyone, it's fine. I think.
Yeah, they're just putting it in line with all the other burst damage 120s in the game. Junkrat, Helix Rocket, Pharah. I think Hanzo's actually 125 at full shot, but like,
is he?
It is. You can two-shot 250 health. Yeah, it's the only 125.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
Two body shots.
I also feel like maybe this is
headshot. Yeah.
Sorry, KarQ. I feel like this is one of those changes that like maybe Blizzard is trying to anticipate any accidental power creep, because a lot of the times what's happened is one hero gets nerfed and people forget that this other hero is like sitting here with a more powerful version of that thing, and then you realize, oh shit, they're meta now. So maybe this is Blizzard trying to think like let's not just leave Sim as it is, because maybe she'll become meta.
No builder metas, please.
No, God, please no.
Actually, I'll quickly ask you.
Good again now, so maybe it's a good...
Jake is like desperate for Pharah and Junkrat to get back to meta somehow.
Yeah, I miss Pharah, dude. Junkrat is actually much less fun in my opinion than Pharah, but yeah, I do miss Pharah.
There you have it. Well, I'll ask this question now, because people in like Reddit and stuff were begging me to ask this question in the thing. Is like, how do you guys feel about builders in general? Like, how do you want to approach them? Do you want to just nerf them to the ground? Should they be stronger, weaker than they are currently? Should they just not be the thing?
I actually think the builders are in a decent spot because they have like a sense the heavy reworks. Those are like the most rework heroes by far, because they were really stupid before. But, like Torb was like just this absolute mudbrain hero, and then you just press ult and you like have an aimbot that has 1,000 HP and destroys people. It's like,
oh my god,
why? So I think the Sim, like the wall and the TP, are like infinitely better than the all design, and like the Sim not having an aimbot anymore. Like I think they've basically fixed builders. I don't think they're an issue, as long as there's not a meta where there's like perma pick offense defense Sim. Like that does not sound fun, but like I think they're actually in a respectable position right now. In terms of like power level, like viability. It's not like the end of the world if you get a builder on your team, but at the same time, it's not like dominant.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work to it. Just remember those days where like even just picking any of those on offense or whatever was just like, you know,
getting griefed.
Getting griefed. Like a teleporter,
My Torb is
a shield generator. God, it was such a weird time back in the day. To play those heroes. But yeah, no, I think I agree with it. Like a lot of people like to compare Overwatch to other FPSs, but like it's Overwatch, it's unique. It's like, oh, they should be more gun and aim, but like, I mean, this game is accessible. It's got a ton of heroes that don't require traditional aim, Rhine, Mercy, so builders included. I mean, arguably Torb, you probably need to learn like projectile timing and all that kind of stuff. And although you do have a turret that helps you for free, but like, I don't know, it's unique, and I think it has a place, and it doesn't feel too oppressive right now, so I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I agree as well. Like, I feel like the only one that's kind of like low key might be kind of strong is Torb hiding in there, but they've for sure gone the right way with how they've changed the builders, because if you guys remember, there was definitely a time where there was shield generator, armor packs, and broken brig rally all at the same time.
Oh
Those
yeah.
weren't fun games, dude.
Zen of 700 HP just rolling
Yeah.
around the map.
Come into your
Not
backline
a
right
good
now.
time.
Tank
So-
I
tracer.
remember at Torb when you'd have all the armor kits and like you just don't give them to your teammates and you just fucking you got the 200 armor count and you just fucking like roll up on the Reinhardt. You just drop yourself 5 armors while you're fighting. You have like 600 EHP. Just
Oh my God.
Why
Then you
did we
pop the
change
old
that?
molten core.
That sounds
Then you
like
pop
so
the
much
molten
fun.
core. Then you get tanky. Don't you get like three
Oh,
the
yeah.
molten core for free?
the
at
Molten
end?
Core was like maybe one of the worst design ults in the game, like the old one, like the turret. It was so
Oh.
dumb. Like the turret is so broken.
Turret,
Everything about
the
the turret
two
get
2CP
armor or
winner.
no?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
you,
turret
like,
got
you
super
like,
buffed.
dude.
lose every fight and then you just like pop the Molten Core. If you build a level 2 on offense, it's game over, bro. You got the level 4.
Stacked.
Didn't the turret heal as well? So you could be like almost killed it, and then it would like you pop Q and it's back to full HP, right?
Back to full
Yeah.
HP level.
Yeah,
3.
yeah. If it was a level 2 already.
Oh
Or you'd
god.
like be building the level 2 with the hammer.
Yeah, it's the whole
I'm
meta
so
where like
glad they
Torbs
got
would
rid of
be
that.
trying to do it, get that last shot in. You're just
Yeah,
trying
every
to kill
time
it.
Toss it down, just like, let me build this up, and then somebody in the background just shooting it. Like, hurry, just let me finish. Oh man.
Oh god.
Gotta love
That's
all
actually
the
like
old play of the
PTSD.
games.
Oh.
The old play of the games where he's just hammering his level 3 turret.
Yeah,
Or he's
Nice.
dead. Or he's just dead
Yeah,
and his
yeah,
turret's just
absolutely
blinking
everybody.
away. Okay.
Good time.
Right. I'm now glad that that doesn't exist anymore, but okay. I appreciate you, Blizzard. Thank you for changing that. Widowmaker, this is the big one. I think this is the one that's got everybody talking. So max ammo increased, but before you get too excited, the scoped ammo cost has increased too to offset that. So you're now only looking at 7 shots from a full scoped Widowmaker, and scope shots now have a 50% fall off from 60 to 85 meters. Yay or nay? This one might be a discussion either way.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Widowmaker, previous to this change, is literally the one hero in the game that's functional at super long range. Like, literally nothing else does anything. I mean, like, if you're incredibly lucky playing Hanzo or you're, like, low rank on Far, you actually could hit damage from that range. But, like, it's, like, literally the only hero that works at that range. So there's certain maps and situations where it will be meta for the rest of the game existing if this isn't changed. Because if you just play it 100 meters, then, like, you just mirror Widow or lose. And there's too many maps that have those situations that like mirror Widow or lose. I think that's like a very unhealthy thing. Like, even there's some maps where Far is good, but even on those maps with the geometry, it's not like Far is you cannot win if you don't have Far, right? You can still play double hit scan or whatever. But Widow is a very unique hero. There's nothing that works at that range. So maybe even Widow shouldn't, instead of adding another hero that does.
Yeah, so it just touches those few scenarios. Although I did try it out on Junkertown, Havana Third, and a few, and it's actually 60 meters is still very far. Like
Yeah.
like if a Widow played like that back part of first point, like kind of close to where the payload checkpoint is supposed to be, up on those stairs, and then you're like rounding the payload underneath like the first bridge, that's like barely 60 meters. So like Widow playing back there would still hypothetically be able to get full damage on you. Same with Havana Third. Most scenarios on Havana Third, she can still do full damage. So like I would actually argue to change the damage from like 50 to 75 or something. Like ramp it up, ramp the damage fall off at a closer distance because it's still very far. It's like less than, I thought it'd be more scenarios, like those ones that came to mind, but like
The
Junkertown
longest
first.
sidelines in the game are on Junkertown first, and
Yeah.
actually I think it's like, I want to say it's Busan Sanctuary. If you play like the long angle across point,
Yeah, there's that one.
that's one of the longest.
The only one that I didn't check Busan, but I did check Ilios Ruins on top of the
Oh
Yeah, the 2 pillars.
Wow.
That's the main
pillar
one.
Widow
Pantheons,
God mode map.
That one actually is like 80. A Widow versus Widow duel, you'd only do 150 tops for a headshot, so you don't want to challenge the other Widow there. But if you're on top of that middle thing and you shoot to the point, it still does full damage at that distance. So it would only affect the duel at that distance. So
Yeah, I was actually surprised how few scenarios it actually affected the change. I thought it'd be more, but testing it, I was like, I'm struggling to find spots where this actually matters. Yeatle, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think it's good. I don't think a game where the winning or losing is dictated by better Widow wins is okay for the game at all. But I think that what people don't realize is it probably makes a difference for like shooting tanks here and there in the long term, or she probably has to charge up her shots all the way, stuff like that. Anyways, I think it's a good change.
Also, things like jump shotting is another case where the range is much more significant because you're shooting diagonally. So like even if the lateral distance is close, like doing like jump shots on spawn is like
It's a little
incredibly high skill, but like arguably is not the healthiest thing for the game. Literally getting jump shot in the spawn.
Well, yeah, literally dying in spawn.
The hypotenuse, bro. Hell yeah. We're making the
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
We're making a
Jake's
right
doing
triangle.
the Pythagoras.
The
So
Pythagoras
if you do
theorem.
the really high angle jump shots, you know, you get that what is it 45 90 jump shots, then
A squared equals B squared plus C squared, right? That's it. That's what we're on about.
no,
Yeah.
that's close.
You're shooting the
Someone-
hypotenuse. You're
That's
shooting
A is
C
the
squared.
hypotenuse. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Okay, well, I'm an English literature graduate, guys. Cut me some slack, okay? And I'm trying to speak your lingo, but it's not my forte. I was like, I'm one of us cool kids. Hello, fellow humans. Okay, final change then is Zarya. Kind of smallish change. Ammo cost increased 20 to 25. Yay or nay?
Yeah.
Sure.
That's how it
Yeah.
used to be.
Yeah.
Mm.
Basically,
I
4
think
right
that-
clicks.
They're better against double shield, which is another buff that was totally futile, but yeah, I think it's fine. Doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
they tone it back down in conjunction with everything else, and it's fine. Like this is how old Zarya was, and
And Zarya's in a pretty dominant spot in the meta right now, ranked and pro play. So I think that's a very minor nerf. It sets you left click a lot. So it's cool. Also hurts the feeling of the hero, but maybe not nearly as significant as like a fire rate change.
Yeah.
Because it's very important on Zarya at the highest level to like shoot a right click with your last 1 ammo or whatever, 2 ammo. But now that's gonna feel a little bit different. You're gonna you have to relearn that again because nobody actually looks at their ammo count. Or like only if you're like super long range spamming would you look at your ammo count. If you're like in a fight, you kind of just go on feel.
One thing I want to add to that actually is that I forgot to mention there's a change to beam type damage reduction against armor health pools. Seems like a very niche thing again, but how do we feel about this one?
It's literally Sim and Zarya, right?
I think so.
Sim,
Zarya,
count?
Moira.
I actually don't know. Oh,
Wait, they
Does
changed it
Moira
again?
count as beam?
I don't know about Moira and Winston.
Coalescence is beam for sure, but like I'm not. I think apparently somebody did say they are. I think they did say Winston, Tesla, Moira,
Echo.
Grasp,
Echo.
Echo beams.
Although nothing in the game has armor when they're below half. Well, I guess it hurts like the 50 DPS armor.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But well, I guess what? No, nothing has armor below half in the game after the Orisa nerf, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe if you got rallied while you were below 50 HP. I don't know. What do you say?
That's true.
God, old Diva used to have 400 armor. God. Remember that 200
Good
health,
times.
200 HP, 200 white health, 400 armor.
Did I miss fast Diva? Shooting and moving fast on Diva.
But do
running
Oh
around.
yeah.
So we feel like this isn't going to change too much, the beam thing.
No. I mean, it's another nerf to Zarya. It's a buff to all armor, theoretically. I think that's the actual meaningful change, that it's a nerf to Zarya against other tanks. That's like the actual, that might actually have real impact.
Mm-hmm.
But 10%.
And Monkey, though. Monkey against armor as well.
Oh, true. That's actually a really big deal.
That's-
I forgot Winston was beam type. Yeah. That's what I wasn't sure about. So that actually does hurt Winston a lot. Which, to be fair, those are the 2 best tanks in my opinion right now. So it's okay for them to get nerfed.
They get to be meta for like 5 seconds, and Blizzard is like, fuck them.
Zarya Winston meta, yeah.
Bring the Orisa out again. You've had your fun.
What was that? 2 days?
jail.
Come on. Fucking kidding me? Yeah.
They'll do fine. No break, no problem. They'll do okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Genji nerfs. Like Genji, I thought it was going to be totally unplayable, but if people stop playing Brig, and that makes like 10 times more difference than the Genji nerf.
Mm-hmm.
Same for Battle Bombs.
So this brings me to an important segue, which is, and I want to start off with Yeatle here because I do want to talk now we're actually going to do what we advertised, which is debate the roles. So,
All right.
Yeatle, as the tank representative, please tell me how you feel first and foremost about the changes, because we haven't even talked about them yet. But the changes now, are we in double off tank world? Is main tank dead? And how do we feel about tanking in general? So take whichever question you want first.
I think honestly, when I first saw this whole patch that happened to the tanks, I was kind of confused, or I was thinking to myself, no way, double shield's still going to be good. People are going to realize, okay, no more break, just go back to Babsen. We can still do spam. But yeah, it's definitely kind of weird that double off tanks to play. I don't know if it really is meta, Hog and Zarya or whatever, but
Depends what rating you're at. I really do think it could work. It probably is meta for everyone to 4K, maybe 5, maybe like all the way through ranked.
yeah, in ladder meta, yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
definitely. It's in there. I mean, as a ball player, I'm kind of farming right now because all I gotta do, like, I feel like more than ever, positioning is like a really big deal right now. So if I just boop a hog past the corner, that dude's feeding. So I feel like there's probably some sleeper picks in there that people don't realize are kind of hiding. But you know, people think something's meta, everyone's gonna run it. That's what's happening. But like I said, I think ball is kind of sleeper. They took Brig out. Your boy's locking rank 1. There's no coincidence there. But sorry, what was another question?
Well,
I know it was like
let's just do this one at a time. I'll come back to you on the subsequent questions. How do KarQ and Jake feel about? Let's start with double off tank. Is double off tank the play? Jake, you've already mentioned that it's like kind of you think in all rungs of ladder it will be KarQ.
I mean, I think until OWL players or the professional players kind of showcase what works, that'll slowly trickle down to ranked. And I think people are just defaulting to it because that's what everybody else says. But I don't know. I can't help but feel like it actually isn't optimal. Like there's has to be some sort of tank combination that outdoes it if executed properly. But we're just kind of waiting around until that combination comes. But I could totally be wrong. But that's just my initial thought to it. It just feels bizarre having two here. I think the reason why they succeed in ranked and it will work in ranked is because they're very solo queue-esque heroes. Like you kind of just hog, you kind of just do your own thing, roll around the corner. You know, he's more flank heavy now since they nerfed the spam and made him like more of a get the hook, punish the person because you're, you know, each bullet does more or each pellet does more or whatever. And then conversely, Zarya's always felt like, you know, like the good Zarya's in ranked be like, yeah, you know, bubble the right target, get that energy, and just farm enemies, just do DPS. So, yeah, I guess for me personally, I'm just gonna wait and see what, you know, people theory craft and figure out what's, you know, sleeper and actually better against it. Maybe it will be a ball meta when the pro players go like, hey, maybe ball is really good against this. If teams are actually gonna run hog Zarya, let's just roll out the ball. Then it gets punished hard. And then people in ranked are gonna start playing ball against it. So.
Yeah, I actually think the reason it's punished is actually not because another tank combo is better. Because I think like what Hog Zarya does exceptionally well is just shit on every tank, and like in like a raw tanks are fighting at the corner matchup. Then yeah, Hog Zarya is really good at that exact niche for just like we put out so much damage, we don't care about your shield or whatever. But the reason it's not good is that in a watch league, if you play that, the enemy team is going to go like Widow, boosted Ash, or maybe not. Honestly, don't even boost Ash. Widow Ash with Ana Zen, and those guys are going to AFK, and you don't get to play the game anymore because like you can't not play anything that disrupts 2 snipers and expect to have a game in the Overwatch League. Like you just can't. Like you can't like not touch the Widow in Overwatch League. Like you just lose.
So at the highest level, like they
the highest level,
like
extremely good hit scans and extremely good supports playing double flex support get like, yeah, Hog is always like ultra greed, all damage, no utility, but nothing is as greedy as 2 snipers and on a Zen. And like when you're playing against the best players in the world, those like aim heavy backliners are like pure skill scaling to where they're just gonna shit on you, like with Zen and Ana and Ash and Widow or whatever. Maybe it'll be. I think it would be Ash Widow actually, even with. I mean, well, these nerfs aren't made Overwatch League, like the new experimental one. So like the existing patch, literally they'll play no flankers, they'll play no utility on support, just all damage all the time. And the Anas aren't going to be missing sleeps, and the Zens are going to be discording the Hog, and every 6 players will shoot them at the same time. Like it's like ultimate case of won't work against the best players in the world.
Yeah, they'll sniff out they'll sniff out the hog flanks, but hog flanks.
Yeah, like you go for a flank on Hog, like good luck, bro. You're getting slept, and your whole team is dying before you get woken up, or you're just dead to the 6-man focus fire, and it's like never anywhere in the middle, which is how Hog wins. Is like most times in ranked, it's in the middle where. You know, I mean, teams got like one guy who's like, no, dude, I'm gonna play Tracer no matter what, and then Roadhog can like actually have something to do. He can like fight the flank, but I think you would just wind up playing against like dive tanks and snipers and Ana Zen.
Snipers.
And
Yeah.
like it won't even be the tanks that succeed to beat the Hog Zarya. It'll be everyone else in the team. And like your Widow player just has no game. You know, if she's getting dove on by Winston Diva, like those Winston Diva, they don't need to do anything. They just need to like distract a Widow, and their teammates will carry them. And like Hog Zarya might do something, but I don't know. I think Ana Zen plus snipers is like the ultimate counter, and that's like the heroes that the best players in the world will destroy you on. Like of all the heroes in the game, they're like the most skill scaling heroes. So you can't just let the enemy team play all the skill scaling heroes at the same time. Normally that's not possible because dive heroes exist. So
Yeah. The people locking Hog Zarya on like very vertical maps would just lose out to the people that range them too. So it's just there's just no way this is actually the true meta like that everybody's picking on every map. It's just yeah, I refuse to believe.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
I don't
KarQ's like,
think
please.
No.
KarQ's like, please, God, no, don't let this
No.
be the pro meta.
No.
I
But so-
definitely agree with the snipers argument because, like, as somebody who's played both Hog and Zarya this meta, I've known beforehand playing Zarya into double snipers, how are you gonna get charged, man? Those guys hit scan. You got to predict the shot coming at you, so you're not gonna
Yeah.
get charged from the DPS. It's literally only your tank. And as Hog, like in ranked, it's literally just you play to kill the other Hog difference. That's it. You're not going for the DPS. And if you are, you're literally on a 1 minute flank. Someone's gonna call that out. So I totally agree with that. Snipers, GG.
do you think
Yeah,
so?
Widow
It'll
in
settle.
particular it's just a broken hero at the highest level. So you just can't win if you don't pressure her, or like you're putting a ridiculous burden on your Widow to just get solo kills when she's getting pressured and the enemy Widow's not.
Yeah, so I think that's the key. So just to quickly summarize for chat is like basically the tanks are supposed to contest the crazy sniper people, and if your tanks are contesting their snipers and your snipers have no one contesting them, in a theoretical world, as Jake is pointing out, in the rock paper scissors at pro level, the pro DPS will just thrive. Whereas in rank, people don't do that. Tanks don't give a fuck about making plays for everyone else anyway, so it's probably not going to happen. But do you guys see it settling on a dive, Winston Zarya then? Is it the pro level?
I think Winston, Diva, Zarya, and Ball are all strong heroes in dive in like different metas and different situations. I think Zarya might actually take a bigger hit because she was popular with Brig, who is now much weaker. And I think like Zarya, like you're saying, Yeatle, is like, you know, Zarya and Brig both suck against two snipers. So if you just go dive with no flankers and you just only have snipers, then I don't think you can play Zarya or Brig into those things. And even one flanker, one sniper, Brig feels pretty bad. I do think Zarya is like really wants to have a Brig to be most successful. So as the meta shifts, I think it'll be more like Mercy on a backline with like Winston Diva or Ball. I think Ball, Winston Diva are like almost interchangeable in a sense, but probably Diva's good if it's a dive mirror.
KarQ, you guys agree?
Yeah. I mean, our meta right now is exactly that. It's like on a Mercy, Winston Diva. They're running like Ashe with it. They're not doing
Ashe
Widow
Sombra.
sometimes, and they do Sombra instead. But sometimes I've seen Ashe Widow as well.
So this is where then we return to the initial premise of that's Overwatch League. But for the rest of us, do you see that coming? Do you see that trickle down? Usually things have trickled down, but dive is one of the more tricky ones to actually get going in ladder. Do you think there's a realistic possibility it does trickle down?
For sure. I think there's a lot of people that like they scrim or they got contenders or whatever, and then they go to play ranked and they want to play that. And I think as just ladder players start seeing that every game, they'll kind of learn it a little bit themselves, and they'll be like, "Hey, this is the meta. We're gonna do this." I think that's how it always trickles down from like pro play to meta or ladder. Sorry. So yeah, I'll see. I think dive will come into comp. I think if that's what's meta.
Yeah, you guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially dive with a lot of snipers. I think the more flankers you add into the composition, the harder it becomes to play. Where if you're going to play like Genji Tracer, that's like the most difficult composition to play with, like in terms of coordination, because it's the most reliant on coordination. Whereas the more snipers you play, if it's just one sniper, if it's two snipers, makes the game like exponentially easier to play for the whole team because the strategy is just much simpler. With Genji Tracer Dive, the strategy is like you need to hit all the unblockable damage onto one target at the same time, which is like Genji dash melee, Diva booster, rockets melee, Tracer some left clicks in a melee, Winston landing melee and left clicks, like all the unblockable damage that D.Va can't disrupt if it's a dive mirror and everyone's playing D.Va. Then you have to land all that unblockable damage at the same time so that the Matrix can't save people and that they can't get burst healed. So that comp is like extremely coordination intensive. But the more snipers you play, if you play just one, it still makes a big difference because the game plan can just be like try to get something done with your other heroes. But like if you're just suppressing them and making them fight in open sight lines, probably your Widow gets free kills. And then you just win because of that instead of because the dive was perfect and you assassinated the back line. It's like, no, you just distracted them and the Widow killed 2 people and you win.
Yeah, and that's a very good explanation, I think. For me, I think the area that I'm most worried with this meta right now is for the majority of the player base, basically the metal ranks. I think because the thing about metal ranks, we often say things like there is no meta in the metal ranks because play anything well and you'll climb. But where that gets complicated is I think if heroes like Hog and Zarya are really strong, I think in particular if main tank feels weak, and we can touch on that in more detail in a second. The default in the metal ranks is already to play chaotic and kind of stupid, basically. To kind of go flank, don't coordinate with your teammates, do solo shit. So if the solo shit is also, let's say, super strong, let's say even if Overwatch League it isn't meta, because Overwatch League, for all the reasons you guys discussed, can counter it. But even if it's close to being meta, right? If it's almost good enough, in the metal ranks, that means it's OP, basically. It means it's super strong. It means that to get anywhere near that level of value, you'd have to play crazy coordinated. So what I worry about is that this will change the meta for the majority of the players unrepairably, basically. I think until other changes come in, I feel like the reward and the punishment is just so great. Like the reward for playing the right picks or the right characters and playing the right way is so much more minute compared to lock Hog Zarya, do deeps, play basically 4 DPS, and just everybody do your own thing. So for me, that's my concern, but I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
I mean, that makes sense to me, man. Like, I think the higher your skill your DPS are, the bigger a deal it makes to have like pressure on them versus no pressure on them. Where, like, if you look at the Overwatch League, if a Widow is truly uncontested, like literally nobody's looking at them and there's no enemy snipers, they can like actually stop moving and just like pure Kovacs. Like, I mean, the DPS goes through the roof. Like the actual potential a DPS player has when they're like truly unchecked and they know they're unchecked. And then you go into like lower ranks, and I don't think people even understand how to like maximize a situation where they're unchecked, and they might like go for a flank when there's absolutely no reason to flank. When there's like no divers, they're gonna like go flank anyway on Widow when they should just be AFK in the back shooting heads. So like the less people understand the game, the less it actually matters to pressure them, and the more like those tanks, I agree, like get value because like people just being out of position, nobody talking. If nobody talks, Roadhog's OP actually. Like if you like made Overwatch League teams play on mute, like Roadhog would be meta. I agree. Like if you actually cannot speak to each other, but that like that's what makes heroes like Roadhog good is like you can't save yourself when you get hooked. You need somebody else to save you. And in the Overwatch League, that's not an issue because of course someone's gonna save you. Like it's a team game. But in the metal ranks, absolutely not the case. People aren't like thinking about the Roadhog flanking. They don't have the timing sense of like, okay, I saw him walk to the right. I'm going to go fight mid for 4 seconds and then I'm going to go kill the Roadhog because I know he's popping the flank like right now. But people don't like, the less that stuff matters and the more it's like, who's going to flank first? Like the more Roadhog is a dominant hero and can just kind of snowball the game.
Yeatle, KarQ, any thoughts? We'll go Yeatle first in case you have any, and then KarQ will come to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the Hog buff will probably be more of a problem for people in the middle elos as the meta develops higher up. But honestly, I'm not sure. I can't say if it's fine or not, or if it's a problem. I don't know. I can't say.
Just too good. Just too good to relate.
Yeah.
KarQ?
Yeah, I really got nothing to add. It's just I mean, they took away his spam and his fire rate, and all they did was nerf the individual pellets. So I mean, it just encourages like the flank and do stuff. But like Jake said, if you play, it buffs him, and if it buffs people with no mics, because like he's actually like his play style is let's stay in the front and spam the enemy shields and just go off and get those hooks and stuff. So
And like I even have games playing Roadhog in ranked where I'm like, or like playing anything in ranked. Like I'm on Doomfist and I've like spawn camped the Widow 2 times, and then the Sigma comes out of spawn. He's not looking at me, and I'm like, I just like what are we even doing here, man? Like I killed the Sigma. Like it's like nobody, like he didn't. His Widow didn't tell him after dying twice. His Widow hasn't said anything, and I'm just like, this is so stupid. Like I'm like, oh, I'll just distract the Sigma and then run away. No, he's just not looking at me and doesn't know I'm behind him. And like, okay, I guess I'll kill him. Like the game is, no matter what. I mean, it's certainly like scales, I think, in prevalence with your SR in terms of like the highest ranked games. Almost always you have like 5 minimum people in voice working together, like 90+% of the time, to the point where you're like expecting it to happen every game. And the lower ranks, I think that's absolutely false, right? I think probably a lot of people could speak to that, but
that's a tip to climb.
As everyone else said, we don't really know. It's like I think we're more theory crafting of like, it makes sense to me, like, you know, heroes that go for solo flanks are better in lower ranked games because those things are better in lower ranked games.
Honestly, it's true. I think like any self-sufficient heroes, like Roadhog, Tracer, spawn camping, just abusing things over and over again that like just go unchecked because you just bank on the fact that they probably won't communicate it, or they just like fall into the same pattern. Like yeah, just like Jake said, it does happen. It doesn't happen as often, and it scales with your rank. But you know, there are definitely cases where like, even like at Lucio, just like boops me like over and over again. Sometimes I even call it out to my team, like, listen, I'm getting spawn camp. I'm playing Zenyatta, and this like Lucio or this somebody is literally in our spawn. I need somebody back here, and they don't listen. So like, I have to switch off or something. But that's like a tip to climb. Just
and that kind of
use that stuff.
just
spawn camp.
Lock the suck. No, and that kind of just kind of illustrates it perfectly. It's like a hero who's self-sufficient will always be the hero who isn't self-sufficient if no one is coordinating, right? And that's kind of the crux of what we're saying, right? So if you're Zenyatta, you can get a lot of output if people help you and pocket you. But the minute that now you have to duel a Lucio one-on-one and he's wall riding and he's on his like alt account, he's doing like the 180 spins because he's got like the mouse sensitivity too high, you're done. Like you're not killing that guy unless someone intervenes. So yeah, I think it makes life hell basically when the majority of people aren't, let's say half your team isn't even in voice chat, let alone talking. So it's a bit of a clusterfuck. But I think the other element of that is the main tank equation. So this is now something I wanted to touch with you on, Yeatle. How do you feel about the general state of the main tanks in the game? Like everything we've mentioned so far is kind of alluded to, like Ball and Winston maybe being okay, but how do you feel about like Ryan and Orisa in particular? I think Ryan in particular is probably the most hurt at the moment because like I think he's probably the default tank of Overwatch when we think of like the quintessential Overwatch tank, and he's kind of struggling. So how do you feel?
I think a lot of people are saying that main tank's dead, and I don't think it's particularly dead. It's just probably just a different hero pool now. So like you said, Reinhardt, and I think Orisa is definitely gone. But Reinhardt, I feel like Reinhardt still might have some space. The problem is maybe not like as a solo queue hero. Like I'm just gonna lock Ryan, even though we have like Zen Mercy or something like that, right? Because right now, just these tanks that do a lot of damage and snipers. Like how are you gonna catch up to the snipers and these tanks are always flanking? What are you gonna do? Leave your front line to go chase the tanks on the end? So I think I can see why Ryan's struggling because he doesn't have that, I guess, the speed boost to chase people around or anything like that. And he can't deal with the DPS at all. So it is a bit of an awkward space for Reinhardt. But I think heroes like, or I think Orisa's still like not going to make it back right now because of how much damage is out here. Similar reasons. But I think like Winston and Ball are pretty okay. They're not terrible. Like if you play them right, you can make it work right now. I feel like that's my thoughts.
Ryan is also like, in my opinion, like I would say it's like the same. It's like the Pharah problem. It's like Pharah is the slave to Mercy. Ryan is a slave to Lucio. Like the hero's just never good if Lucio's not good. And in like the Overwatch League, people actually do make those strats work, kind of, like with like Lucio comp. But like when do you ever play Ryan without Lucio? It's just bad. Like it's like a melee hero who like is a melee hero.
Yeah,
He needs to be fast. Like if he can't catch you, then he just gets kited. It's like, what's like an example? It's like, I don't know, play
well, it's like the carrot and the stick and you're forever chasing the carrot. And
yeah,
like,
exactly.
no.
I'm thinking like StarCraft. I watch a lot of StarCraft. It's like a cyclone, you just
shout out.
You can't be
Oh god. The shout
you can't
out
be sending
the cyclone.
after the cyclones, the banelings chasing the cyclones. It's not looking good for you. Like that's what
It's
you
like
are
Zel-
as
it's,
Ryan right now.
that's the perfect. It's a zealot without charge. That's what it is. That's what Reinhardt is without
Exactly,
Lucio.
exactly. And Ryan's problem is that like he just needs that enabling factor. And I think for so long Ryan was a very dominant hero, but because Lucio was also like the most meta hero of all time in Overwatch, right? If you look back, at least it's only like the last year where he's not meta, but like before that, I feel like that hero was like actually perma pick for 2-3 years. I remember Lucio was like the one hero people one tricked hardcore, and it was like didn't matter. You could be a one trick and be a professional player because it was like so. But it was like it's insane for 2-3 years. Like you have Lucio every single comp, every single situation. Maybe you switch to play Far Mercy, maybe, but then even then you probably do Lucio Far Mercy is fine. Like so, I think that hero, like Ryan and Lucio, like it's like one I don't think will ever be good without the other. And Lucio sucks.
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Unless they were to introduce heroes with similar abilities. That's kind of tangenting a little bit. But I wouldn't be averse to heroes having overlapping abilities and having another speed boosting hero, personally.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think they should do a speed boost that's not AoE. That's like single target, like the old Nano. But
that'd be cool.
in like I think that's like an under like something we need now. I mean, there's the risk of going back to like Beyblade mode,
Beyblade
where
meta.
you like stack that on the Nano Blade. Which, but I also think that's cool. Like like I don't. And Beyblade has only existed because Reaper's ult worked in a stupid way where D.Va can't counter it, but now D.Va can counter it. So even if you brought back old Nano, I don't think you'd be playing Reaper anymore because D.Va would just hard counter you. But it's a fun little interaction meme where you could just fully Matrix the Reaper and he just deals 60% of his damage anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, individual speed boost might actually be a pretty good mechanic to add to like a new support hero.
Be huge for
Something like
Ryan,
that.
like or even put it on an existing hero, like rework somebody,
Mhm.
and like I think it's one of those mechanics that like would allow a lot more flexibility and more interesting types of plays, I think. And heroes like Reaper and Ryan that suck could really benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have one more question for Yeatle, but I'll come back later so I don't exhaust all the Yeatle topics and then he has to shut up for the rest of the podcast. Let me head over to KarQ actually. KarQ, my question to you regarding supports, is burst healing a problem? This is something that we came up in the previous podcast, and most people seem to feel like that was burst healing was often the first stack on the Jenga block that was problems in Overwatch. So how do we feel about burst healing?
Burst healing like
BAP and
not
Brig
healing
kind
all
of
the time.
thing. Like just having a lot of healing very quickly, basically.
Oh, okay. So then that includes like the auras. I
Even-
think the bigger issue was auras, like just
Mm.
lingering auras that lasted way longer than it needed to be. Like in spot, we talked about it earlier. Like Briggs' passive regenerative burst, honestly, were a little kind of insane. That's when like BAP and Brig were meta. You get tagged with a regenerative burst on Baptiste, along with like an Inspire, a rally going. It's like you do like even burst damage to him, like 120 burst or whatever, and they actually like heal it back up in like 2 seconds, even without Baptiste actively shooting it, just because of everything that's going around. So it's definitely an issue. So like that initial thought of nerfing Baptiste regenerative burst, I'm actually like somewhat okay with, and the fact that they have changed Inspire to heal a lot less now. So they have tapped into it. I do think it's an issue. It's an issue that I guess Blizzard agrees that it might be something to work on. So yeah, my answer is yes. Anything else to add to that?
Well, yeah, Jake, Yeatle, any guys got any feedback on that?
Yeah, if we're not talking like AoE healing, we're just talking like burst heals like Ana, Moira, BAP. I don't think burst healing is a problem in the game. We have so many like one-shot heroes and stuff like that it's just like, yeah, all the healing in the world is not gonna make a difference if Widow one taps you or like Doomfist punches you into a wall. But I think they've gone the right way with like how they're nerfing some heroes like Brig, Moira, and such, because like yeah, I guess I just think they're going the right way with it right now.
Yeah, let me rename the burst to AoE just to make it more clear. I think just generally having lots of healing output, like crazy sustain.
But then at the
Oh,
same
then,
time,
yeah.
now that I think more about it, at the same time, like the reason why it was really good is because there were a lot of shields in the way to prevent those like one shots. So the fact that like there's less shields around, you're exposed to like Widow sight lines and all that kind of stuff. despite having a lot of AoE healing, you could still die, and that's why, I guess burst damage is really important, which is why we have so many widows and stuff. Which is why heroes like Soldier are just left in the dust because like 19 damage per bullet or whatever, like just it doesn't do anything when the healing over time outdoes that, or the AoE healing from all these people. So I think the bigger issue to tackle, less about healing and it's more about trying to do something about Soldier, I guess. But then we get into the idea of like power creeping and we just keep buffing and buffing to compensate for it. So then I don't know, it just goes full circle. All right, just fuck it. Let's just get the AoE healing so maybe everything else can come back in line.
I think
it's the chicken and
the
egg.
real problem is just healing that is like doesn't have an obvious origin source. Like in the sense of like when Ana is healing somebody, Ana is like the biggest burst heal in the game. She has like Bionade and left click is like god tier heals. You're getting like, I don't even know what the HP per second is, but it's like ridiculous. Generally, if it's on you, you're just not dying like through anything except one taps. And especially if you're playing like a tank or something, like you can tank people through like a close range whole hog with like Bionade every left click going to the Roadhog, as long as it's not like point blank. Just some like ridiculous healing potential. But I don't think those things are problematic. I think it's only the heals, like you were saying before, Yeatle, where it's like some dude just got puffed by the Moira 4 seconds ago and he's just still healing while you're on him. You're like, what the fuck? How's this guy healing? Like, it's like you don't even understand what, like, you don't understand that they are healing. And that's the same thing for BAP's regenerative burst. It's same for Brig. Inspire is like the most egregious case of like the Brig is just like didn't even understand that she healed this person and yet she's healed them. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is not a healthy mechanic for the game. It comes back to the theme of cutting Lucio's AoE to now like a more powerful but very small AoE rather than his old like whole map AoE where you just like, I'm on speed, everybody's fast. Like to run 2 Lucios and everyone's healing and fast all the time. Like, you know, so the huge AoE where it's like it's not even like an active decision-making thing to heal. Those are unhealthy for the game, in my opinion. But the heals where it's like the Ana's like doing it or the BAP is like spamming his right clicks. Like, yeah, it's AoE, but it's, you know, it's not big. It's like you have to shoot somebody basically.
Yeah, you
like
still have to aim. There's like I guess a more skill and intentional component to it instead of accidentally just.
Yeah, or the thing where you just AoE heal your whole team and like everybody's healing all the time. And like if you go for any kills, then like they're going to be healing. Like even if there's no like, you know, whereas on Ana, it's like if you go for a kill on the person, like if you kill them before the Ana reacts, you get the kill. But if the Ana is like knew you were going to go for that person and they were like ready to heal them, then they're going to live. So there's like that intentional component where it's not about the strength of the heal. It's like the intentionality of it. That I think is a problem. Like where some heals are just like, you just perma healing people or Brig where you just like, you know, throw an armor pack and like you forget about it. And then like that person goes for a fight 4 seconds later and they're still owning because they're still healed. Whereas something like it's like Mercy Beam is the exact opposite, right? Where like you do nothing unless you are like literally on them, which I think is actually the most like the best type of healing. Like all types of healing should be that way, like Harmony Orb or Mercy Beam or even Ana heals are fine because it's like, you know, 1 second duration or whatever, half a second duration. But
yeah, I think
it doesn't piss me off if the guy actually is like doing something to counter me. It pisses me off if somebody accidentally counters me. Okay, this is big play, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
I think if we count this if we count this experimental, like they've done a great job of dealing with that problem. Like I feel like I'd be happy with how the heals are after this experimental goes through, assuming they do the more thing. Like I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think it's the existence problem is kind of what you guys are touching on. It's kind of partly what was probably the most annoying and the most irksome part of Double Shield was that a lot of the heroes just existing meant that X hero couldn't get value or this hero was just gonna get permanent value. So like just having a reset plop shield down, it's like, well, that's it now. You can't do this. And it's like the Brig again is another example of like she exists now. You can't do anything.
You can play like 10 heroes into it just because she exists there. It's like
exactly. So I think what you guys have touched on is very pertinent. I think just having deliberate action be rewarded as opposed to just I picked this hero. Fuck you guys. Okay, that's fair. So on a similar kind of note then, so we were trying to figure out the chicken and egg of like what made the problem. Was it the healing or was it DPS? Jake, over to you now. Is burst damage a problem? Because that's something that we've again has come up in previous podcasts about the fact that everything one taps you now. It kind of makes this cycle of like you need more sustain and you need shields to stop the one tapping, and then yeah, it's like that's how power creep essentially starts happening. So is one tapping and burst damage a problem?
I mean, when did anything not one tap you? Like, you know what I mean? Like Widow has always one tapped you, and Hanzo has always one tapped you. And I think the real problem is that it is in the nature of FPS games that the entire player base improves over time. And the problem with Overwatch design at a deep and fundamental level is that different heroes have significantly different scaling power with your aiming ability, which is like the number one thing that scales over time because people just get better at the game. So like heroes that like have incredible, like something like examples like Primal or something, with Primal has like a ridiculous skill cap that people didn't even understand how it worked entirely at the start. And then people understood like the overlapping hitbox of the swings means you can hit like triple stack hits and do like crazy bursts with a triple stack that people like before were just didn't understand to like hit, like pre-hit to like pre-swing. They would just sort of go in with it. And like, so as the hero becomes more and more well understood and people understand how to execute this combo, it becomes a real threat, and your Primal becomes this like really dangerous ultimate instead of just like a zoning tool. And then, you know, I think Widow is like the ultimate example. Like if you look back in the day, people were just not good at hit scan like compared to today. And like Winston always did the same amount of damage with his left click. You know, like no matter how, like it's pretty obvious how you do more damage with Winston left click, tase more people at the same time, right? But heroes that like are like Widow is like the most raw skill scaling hero because she has the only unique crit multiplier and therefore has the highest reward for hitting headshots over other types of shots. So as the game matures and people just get better at all the heroes, Moira doesn't really get any better. Brig doesn't really get any better. And well, I mean, Brig is obviously ridiculously OP when she came out, but like the point is that over time, what was like an acceptable state of balance actually becomes unacceptable because the player base got better. And like Ryan never did more or less damage or something, right? It's not about his damage getting better or worse. It's like now like the McCree just gonna hit a lot of headshots on you when you drop shield because the McCree got really good. And like you can't, there's no scaling like that on a lot of heroes in Overwatch because a lot of them don't have aiming mechanics like Mercy or whatever. So Mercy became like an outdated hero. But Mercy has a unique way to leech off the scaling of other heroes with damage boosts. So like you just damage boost an insane hit scan player, and then now you are scaling with their skill. And I think the problem is that heroes like DPS heroes are like has the biggest number of heroes with extremely steep skill scaling, and tank and support have like the biggest number of the heroes that don't. So DPS naturally has like gained over time. And on top of that, then there's like the goats problem of they did not understand goats when they thought that they could buff like Reaper to make it a counter. They just didn't understand how the game worked actually, because at the highest level it was like your damage does not matter. Like you could buff it twice as hard, and like making Reaper sustain better with lifesteal is like a joke. Like you don't even deal damage to goats. Like you just get matrixed and bubbled and shielded, and then you're dead. Like, so I think it kind of comes back to them trying to solve goats with very misguided changes because they didn't understand that like it was actually the heroes and goats that became too strong. Part of it also is that tanks have always been like the best heroes in the game. Like historically, triple tank was the meta for the vast majority of the game, like the life cycle, and you know, alternatively like triple DPS and stuff like that. But when you go down to 2-2-2, I think it makes tanks like even better in a weird way. Like they have the best ults, and tanks and supports have the best ults generally. And I'm kind of rambling. My larger point is just that the DPS like scale the most with the over time of people playing the game, with some exceptions in the other categories like Ana, Zen, Winston. I think actually a lot of the tank heroes are pretty similar. But like Zarya is this weird hero where like high energy Zarya is like ultra easy to aim because the beam becomes huge.
Is bigger.
Yeah, so it's like has this like anti skill scaling where like as long as you're getting energy, the people at the start of the game were probably about as good in terms of how much DPS they dealt. But now the heroes that like basically any hero that crits is like gonna scale better over years of people getting better at the game.
Ooh, maybe Zarya beam gets more concentrated. She gets higher charge, and then it's like, I don't know, spitballing. But do you feel like then the game has kind of gotten more punishing? Essentially, I think that's kind of what we're alluding to here. Like, I've seen a lot of people discuss this idea that it feels like in Overwatch now there's basically two states. There's either I'm full HP, full shields, and then you drop your shield and you're dead. So do you think that that's just basically what you're alluding to, that people have just gotten better at punishing? So now that one mistake is more costly than it was year one of Overwatch or whatever people are used to.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. Like you just can't like the way I look at it is like if you were to stay at exactly 4,000 SR, well, like let's abstract from the change that made SR actually mean different things, like at a certain number. It's like if we just imagine that all SR was like it is now, and abstract from those changes, then if you were at like current 4K SR, if you were to stay at that SR over the course of 3 years, you would have had to improve at a relatively consistent rate over time to actually maintain 4K SR. So as people play and improve and they wonder why am I not climbing, the answer is that you're just not improving faster than other people. You're improving at the same rate as other people. And if you're losing SR, you're improving. You probably are still improving, but you're just improving at a slower rate than other people. So the problem is that some heroes have significantly different skill scaling in terms of like the ultimate raw DPS. Like I bet if you looked at like the average DPS of like, every, it's hard because heroes have been changed a lot, but like if you just took like a hero that pretended it was never changed, like how many shots does a top McCree player hit when they walk into an open sight line? That number is now just a lot higher, like per percentage or whatever, than it was 2 years ago. So yes, you die faster, and DPS are like the heroes that kill you most of the time. So,
so you're not saying it's necessarily a problem; it's just a result of.
It's the nature of the game.
Of the FPSs,
I think what it exposes the problems in having heroes that don't scale off aiming skill.
Okay.
Because like heroes like Ana and Zen, I think are totally fine because they get exactly the same thing where they also have scaled with your aiming skill, and they also kill people really fast now. And like you look at back in the day, like Zens just weren't nearly as good at just like fragging you and just like like being another DPS player. And like you look at like BAP now is a great example of like the best BAPs in the world just shit on people with like the left click. Like a DPS, no problem for them because they're so insane at the aim. But like, I think if you went back in Overwatch, I think people would have been healing a lot more on BAP because they just weren't as good at the game. So healing was better because it was easier.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. It's like we're kind of we've previously been phrasing discussion the wrong way about like, the damage is being scaled or the burst is being scaled. Really, the problem is the scalability itself, right? And I think it's true of any sport or esport where people just get significantly better. Like I know there's a lot of nostalgia for like old era Overwatch of like Apex era Overwatch, but again, to take the StarCraft example, Jake, like people who played StarCraft Legacy of the Void when it first came out are like garbage compared to the people now, because people just learn to maximize every item more and more, and we work out every item more and more. I guess Mercy is a good example of this, is that Mercy players have had to squeeze harder and harder to get value out of smaller and smaller things. So the super jump is like a consequence of that, where, well, I only have so much mobility, but oh shit, I found this little tech that lets me go higher. And again, modern Mercy focus has been a lot more on like optimizing damage boost more than I need to heal people more, because that's the only part that can actually be scaled if you think about it. Like the left click of a Mercy will always be the left click of any Mercy at any rank, but managing to squeeze in that extra amount of damage boost will scale because your teammates, like you're saying, Jake, will do more damage than they would have done previously. So yeah, I think it's very interesting.
It's like essential to learn like super jump. Just like you said, this is like you have to squeeze out everything you can now. Like I've literally seen gold Mercies like add super jump to their arsenal, and like 4 years ago you would not have seen anybody do that.
I don't think anybody even knew about it. I think it was always in the game, right? People just didn't understand it, or
exactly.
To be fair, it's a very weird input to like crouch slide into the jump, like. So I think it's just, but that's like I think Mercy is actually a unique example of a hero without an aiming mechanic that still actually does scale off skill because it like latches onto other types of skill scaling. And
the
to be fair,
the leech as you described it.
The movement tech is actually like high skill. It's like actually
it is
like because it has the movement tech scales. Like the more precisely you do the super jump, the more height you get. So like that is like that's another type of scaling mechanic where if you are like same for Doomfist, like don't even think about Doomfist critting, which obviously is true. It's better if you hit more shots and stuff. And now Doomfist is a more aim heavy hero because it doesn't CC people in like a linear pattern anymore. At least the uppercut, which is the key important skill for that particular mechanic. But like Mercy, the super jump scales with your precision, and Doomfist bouncing scales with your precision on jumping out of the punch. And the diag punch scales with your precision and releasing the punch. You get more height, or how much height do you actually want? Your ability to control those things also are like scaling mechanics. It's not only crits, but crits are like that's like the big daddy of scaling. It's like double damage, like it's just it's fucking double damage. It turns out if you hit a lot of double damage shots, it's pretty good.
I've literally sat
Yeah.
and tried to think of like advanced techs and more things that are like, people um can, learn and scale with over time. And like the biggest thing, I guess, what the Yeatle can probably comment on is stuff like the double boop and stuff. This is
Mm.
very recent per se. Like within the last year, it became a lot more popular and popularized. And now like a lot of balls are trying to learn it to get more innate value. But
Yeah, that's a pretty good example. Like I know, like the first year Wrecking Ball, I knew about some techs, but I very minimally used it. But now it's like part of the whole thing. Like while jumping here and there to like get a pile drive off, stuff like that. Is the skill there has been leveled up, I guess.
mhm.
Yeah, and even like actually, KarQ, I was tuned into your stream earlier, and you were talking about animation canceling with Ana, and how to like try and squeeze an extra shot in before you nade and squeeze an extra shot in before you sleep. So again, like
Yeah.
the importance of getting that. I think when every DPS essentially that requires aiming is getting more value just by getting better, heroes that don't automatically, but even though Ana does, they still need to squeeze more and more value out of whatever they can to keep
Yeah.
up, I guess. And sometimes some heroes get left behind. Arguably, Reinhardt is a good example of that, because we did touch on with Yeatle like how maybe he feels out of place, and then they had to add in like the steadfast passive to make it feel like he could hack it. But is the
Yeah.
go ahead, KarQ.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's like it, because like you kind of try to think of more things you could do other than hammer, swing, or swing, shield up, and just general movement. But like, I guess it does hit a certain cap, so they had to add steadfast to compensate for everybody else's scaling. I was just kind of just agreeing with you. I
Sure.
didn't really have any more input.
No. I think it's no, Yeatle. Go ahead. You since
It definitely feels like if Reinhardt didn't have Steadfast right now, like he would be literally unplayable
Trash.
because you
Yeah.
got heroes like I remember before they had Steadfast, I could just boop a Reinhardt back all day and he'd lose his shield just trying to get back to where he was. And I can do that back and forward. Like Reinhardt just wouldn't survive. So I think some heroes that are left in the dust probably need stuff like that, like Steadfast. Sure.
Yeah, so is
So
the
who's
issue then that we kind of need more? We need more abilities to be scalable. For some of these left behind heroes. Do we
or
when we
discover
talk
some
about?
crazy techs that like nobody's ever come up with? I mean, it's
Yeah,
kind of crazy how like some people. Sometimes it happens though, where like I think Smash Melee might be the best example of like new shit that still comes out like 20 years later that people discover. So
Hmm.
who knows? There might be some hidden things you can do. Maybe.
that's true. Like, yeah, even in StarCraft, people still discover some new shit like the stop micro on workers. But yeah, I mean, it is possible that maybe Reinhardt will discover some secret tech that no one knows about, with like 180 charges that blink forward or something. I don't know, but is our focus in balancing, should that be more towards that direction? Then we talk a lot about numbers and in creep and this, that, the other, but do we need to actually focus more on balancing that allows a hero to scale naturally with time, and then we won't need to worry so much about the numbers?
I mean, this is why I think it's really dangerous to put in heroes that don't have skill scaling, because like then you need power creep, or else they like every hero, every crit hero is power creeping all the time just because people get better. And if you're not a crit hero, then you aren't. Then like you need to power creep, or else you are like in a, because balance only matters in a relative sense. Like in the sense of if every hero becomes stronger, that is the same as that one hero that's left out becoming weaker. It's like it makes no difference which way you think about it, because the
It's
only
that meme
question is
from the
which hero you're going to
Incredibles.
click when you pick off the spawn. So like basically every hero should have some sort of tech, in my opinion, like some sort of advanced tech. And like heroes that like lack those advanced, I mean, there's some heroes that people have like found those techs, like Brig and Moira. People found how to do like the high ground jumps on like certain geometry where you can like jump to high grounds, and you see people doing that all the time in the Overwatch League. For Moira, I mean, it's not as common because it's not as good, because Moira just doesn't do as much from the high ground, but that tech exists on Moira. It just doesn't actually help the hero scale in terms of efficiency for serious play where you're not flanking and stuff on Moira.
That's why I
But
was actually okay with the initial Mora change where they gave invulnerability. Maybe like definitely tuned in other ways, but like that idea.
give her
And
that playmaking potential. Like,
yeah.
Hmm.
and I think heroes like Rhine are, it's like that's a hero that just doesn't have that. I mean, there is some of that scaling, I think, with like the shield management and like the way you can like just hard react on certain things with shield. But I think Rhine is like every hero has like theoretical. It's like some scaling with getting better. Like every hero does more if you're better, obviously, and you can do more. But some heroes it's just not equal in terms of that scaling potential. And like you're saying, stuff like Wrecking Ball, where Wrecking Ball is like full of very complicated techniques, and heroes like Doomfist that's like full of extremely niche interactions with certain map geometry that just completely change the way you play the hero once you understand them. Like not every hero has to be a Doomfist or a Wrecking Ball, but I do think that's like every hero should aspire to be that in a sense. Like every hero should have something like Winston's Prime, I think is like maybe the best example in the game because it has this like obscene potential, right? Like almost ridiculous potential, but it's so hard to like do it perfectly because you have to just do everything just right for like 3 or 4 seconds of like consecutive every input at the exact right moment, or else it doesn't work. And that's true for like Doom and Wrecking Ball and that sort of thing. And heroes that like hit headshots just do that by virtue of hitting headshots. But for heroes like Moira, it's like those heroes are just going to be left behind. And to a lesser extent, heroes like Sim and Torb are the same. But Sim and Torb have both had, I think, the massive reworks to add those things in. Like the Sim TP is now this major, like, creative mechanic that can scale by virtue of just doing super unique things that no other hero does, even close. What are the problem heroes in that sense then? Like, what are the heroes that just like they like lack scaling? I think Moira is like probably number one.
Moira's number
Ryan
one. We're talking
one.
about Ryan. Mercy would if the damage boost didn't help.
Yeah, damage boost and the super jump having.
Yeah, super jump. Yeah.
Does Lucio, does he count in a way? Because he doesn't.
I think so. I think
Yes,
so. He
like
does
speed.
crit though. It's the only thing, but it's like an unrealistic. Crit.
Lucio
like,
critting all the time.
I mean, it's just unrealistic with the way the gun works and stuff. Lucio, I think, is probably his biggest problem is that like in order to do the things that make Lucio really good, which is like booping people, you rely on people missing, and the less people miss, the less the hero is playable. Like if your hit scanner just freaks, then like you can't do the wall ride across the map to get to that spot. You just die. Or at least
Orisa
1% more every week or whatever.
Orisa as well, I think, would fit in that category. I mean, yes, she can crit as well, but how much really are you going to get from those slow ass bullets? For me, I'm a favor of like, for characters like that, I think, and there's a common theme to all of them, I'm in favor of like more dynamism being rewarded. So again, don't roast me for this, but like for example, for Lucio, one idea could be that if the more he wall rides, the more it kind of changes, let's say, his healing or speed output or numbers, right? So it's like the longer he's been wall riding, he's kind of building his charge of his amp it up, let's say.
So when he pops his amp, it's like really powerful.
Exactly. So then when he releases it, it's like built up over time. So then it rewards Lucio players who are doing this active thing. And I think that solves two problems. One, it solves the scalability problem. Two, it solves the problem of, which I get asked about all the time, how do I know if I'm doing the right thing on this hero? And I think for someone like Tanks, that's actually really important because so many people are like, I don't know what it means to make space. Like, what is it? Can you tell me? And like, it's a concept. I can't explain it to you in every game. Like, you have to understand. But if, let's say, Reinhardt... Go ahead, Yeatle.
No, sorry. I was just... No numbers for that. That's what I was saying. Sorry.
No, yeah, exactly. And, like, for example, let's say with Reinhardt, I don't know what the thingy would be, but maybe every fire strike he lands, increases his speed. I don't know. I'm just literally spitballing, but...
Or damage blocked. I don't know.
Or like like a fire strike gives you shield back or something like that.
Exactly.
Hit. Yeah. Maybe like
or something to do. I mean, I don't like consecutive fire strikes because it's so long cooldown. I don't think that's like healthy. But I do think you're right. Like you just need those. Like Ryan, his only skill scaling mechanic, as I understand it, is well, obviously aiming fire strike, but that's not actually the biggest deal in the hero. But like the maxing your hammer range by like looking left or right of the target.
Yeah, like swinging with the swing. But even that is so minimal because again, you have to be in range of the character.
Like
so
2% increase in range is like so it's how much.
The biggest scaling with Reinhardt is basically mind games. Like that's the biggest scaling with Reinhardt. You just have to try and outfox people in more crazy sometimes ways and sometimes more subtle ways. So I think it would be cool to add something like that. Now I've got my theory crafting boots on.
I like your idea with the Lucio change though. I do think Lucio is maybe one of the most like in need of help heroes, frankly. Like I don't know if the other nerfs of supports are going to do much because I think Lucio really does suffer from like just almost being outdated. Like so I think Soldier 76 is another example of like just being outdated. Like they just don't
I mean, he does
actually
scale with
like something
headshots,
like
though.
speed boost is like isn't even that good anymore when there's heroes like Wrecking Ball that are like faster than you with speed boost. You know what I mean? And like they just don't really give a shit about getting booped as hard as
Hmm.
was not as much anymore. The way like Winston gets booped out of his bubble and he just dies because he loses like whatever 600 health or 700 health of bubble protection. He just loses that in one right click. It's like god tier play from Lucio. But for some heroes, they just don't like it doesn't matter as much anymore. And the speed as well, like, was better when people were worse at aiming. But as people get better and better at aiming, then people being fast makes it like you're not missing as many more shots against the fast target as before. You were like getting rolled over really fast. I feel like Lucio, when I see him, like sometimes I'll just see him and I'll just like two tap him and be like, oh shit, like he's dead. And like just playing against Ana Zen that hide in the back line, you can't really do that to them unless you're on Widow.
Yeah. I'm just having a look at the hero list to see who else fits in this. In a weird way, Bastion, like nobody plays him out of the turret form, so you don't scale the headshots, you're just gunning people down. But
yeah, your hitbox is too big, but that's a hero that should never be fucking.
no,
Yeah.
you don't want we don't.
Yeah.
Meta, do you guys remember that Ironclad meta with the
that
nano?
1 week.
I swear, you
I remember
made
scrimming
headlines,
and we were
Jake.
literally playing Bastion Torb mirrors on payload, and like both teams cap with 5 minutes remaining because nobody could kill the Bastion on the payload the entire game.
I swear
Yeah,
you made headlines because
ever.
you're like one tricking Bastion for half the season just to prove.
I
how,
no,
like,
I was
stupid
actually
the hero
that
or
was an
something.
intentional grief. I was just like, it's so stupid. They won't ban people for griefing, and I just literally one trick Bastion. I'm like, I don't care. I'm griefing, but I'm gonna try my best, but I'm like gonna pick the worst hero in the game.
And you
And
clip
it
climbing.
just didn't matter. It just I was like, I just give up. I give up on griefing.
Does do
Recon
Junker
mode
and
mode.
Farah fall under this metric, Jake?
I would think so, yeah, actually, because they don't have. I mean, I don't think those heroes should crit. I think that's a terrible mechanic. But,
Flip
like,
it.
I think they absolutely fall under the like. Farah used to be like very good in my like right. Used to be like one of the best heroes in the game. Like like there were multiple. I remember there were multiple metas of Farah Mercy being dominant. So it never felt like even when she fell out of favor, you were still playing her almost always on the good maps. Whereas right now, it's like only teams that really want to play Farah are going to do it on those maps. Most teams won't.
Yeah. And again, I think some of the heroes that we would have thought about have kind of fixed this issue. Like Symmetra. Symmetra is the perfect example of just like earlier it was just you click and you lock on and job done. But now you actively build beam strength. So yeah, I think Blizzard clearly have shown capability of doing that, but they hopefully more down that path. Anything else anyone wants to add on that topic before we move on?
I think Soldier actually, because Visor is like the ultimate example of a no scaling ability, like no skill scaling, right? It's like the ultimate example. In fact, now we're reaching the point where like Visor hurts you, where you can't headshot anymore. And like
That's
if you're
true.
just insane at Soldier, like something I realized a long time ago was like if you're hitting more than 50% headshots on Soldier, then visoring is a DPS reduction. Like aside from the reload change, right? So it's like when you're shooting tanks, it's actually terrible. Like if like a Winston's just like running it down mid on you, or a Reinhardt's swinging on you to one of those times where you can actually just like rail them with headshots if you have good tracking, then like a point blank, then the visor like hurts
Visor's
you.
worse. Yeah.
Visor nerf. Throw
It's
visor
one of those
activated.
things. That's actually like exactly how like with the Pharah change with Barrage, like they're reducing the time that she can DPS because of the way the game evolved with scaling, where like it just ended up being more punishing the longer you sat in Barrage. So instead of being 3 seconds, they toned it down to 2.5. So even though the net DPS is less, it's actually a buff because of the way the game has become. It's kind of cool to see. So.
Dude, thinking about Soldier, I feel like it'd almost be better if his ult just like insta reloaded instead of like giving them the aimbot mechanic in a way.
I think aimbot should be reworked. Like I think two things you can do to buff Soldier. One of them is make the sprint better, but like you have a cooldown associated with sprint where you have a movement speed buff, like an even bigger one than the normal sprint, but it's like on a 5-second cooldown and only lasts 2 seconds or whatever. Because the problem with that hero is that you can't outrun heroes like Wrecking Ball. He just like runs you down and you die. Like it's just, like you can't escape. So you just need to play McCree and just man up on the Wrecking Ball. That's the only way you actually win as DPS is manning up on the Wrecking Ball. There's no escaping. Whereas that's what Soldier did before, was like just run away from Winston. And like he was like, oh fuck, I can't chase you. Like, I'm just gonna ignore you now. And then you get a bunch of value because of that. Or Diva, you just run away and you get out of their effective range, and then you start dominating. but that is antithetical to like using the heal station, and also Visor is like like it's just a terrible old right now. Like Visor is like super outdated in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, where that's like the ultimate example of like day one Visor's broken.
Everyone's like,
everyone's
whoa.
Yeah, it was like,
so it's like I hit 100% of my shots. This is OP. Like I'm use it all the time. And it was when people, but then as Widow gets better and better and better, and the Widow's just like, well, I just one tap you, so nice aimbot, buddy. As long as I hit my shot, you die. So
It was like that with High Noon as well, where High Noon at release was like fucking OP because everyone was like, cover? What's cover? And now it's like,
yeah, and people also weren't fast enough to like instant headshot the McCree. They would like, they're just too slow, even though he like can't move. You know, he's like basically.
and a
Or they might
giant
miss
glowing red guy.
Yeah, they might
McCree.
miss on him in like the most look at me ultimate in the whole game. Yeah, I think those are good examples of things that don't scale, but have also had been buffed over time and still aren't considered impressive. Like High Noon, it's not even
it's still kind of
back
crap.
then, but it's got massively buffed, right? It's like ridiculous buff to the ultimate, but it doesn't even
Yeah,
feel
they
that
buffed
good.
like how quickly it locks on. They buffed the base damage even if you instantly pull the trigger. Crazy.
Yeah, it still has some problems. But I mean, the fair change in that direction was the right move. So like, I think they have to touch those for sure. They're outdated. Don't know what suggestion would be next for those, but I don't know if we were like spitballing. What would you do to like High Noon and like Visor? Did you?
I think High Noon is actually kind of okay because it has this like major detriment of literally standing still and being giant and red. But I think Visor should just be hard reworked, like Yeatle said. I don't think it should exist anymore. Like
just like a
give
reload?
Soldier like a Dragon
think-
Blade equivalent, where like you just have like no spread, no clip for the whole ult. That's like
Here's a thought. Hear me out. What do you guys think about this? What if Visor like made it so that your spread is like tied into the max, like perfect hit scan, and that's all it does.
Exactly.
You just
No
straight
spread.
perfect hit scan. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be sick. Like no spread
recoil.
and no spread, no reload. Like you just can perma like an actual laser beam of like like hey, that's what McCree does when he holds left click. So maybe we could be like yeah, I don't think that'd even be good. Like it's crazy. I don't think the hero.
It's because shields and LOS still counter it, but like if you're left open it.
But at least like I don't know. I think like another thing I would like to see change on Soldier is like change the heal instead of it being you put it on the ground. Like it should just come out of you, or it should just be like like towards E, where it's just like you just like stim yourself and there's no like ally help. So you can
give Soldier stim pack.
Exactly. Make him a Marine.
Make him a Marine.
It gives him exactly what it gives you at StarCraft, like fire rate increase and
the
whatever,
movement speed. But then he takes damage afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. That would be super. Or right at the start, you want to get healed while you're doing it. But like make Soldier more of like a greedy hero, less of a team play hero, because realistically, another aspect of scaling is that the heroes that are like the most extreme specialists have also gotten better and better and better. And the heroes that like kind of cross roles have had like the most struggles, in my opinion, over the long period of time. Like maybe exception to that, stuff like Zen and like support's probably the exception to that. But on DPS, it's like the most all I do is damage heroes have gotten the biggest, have been like the best for the longest. Like Widow is like, I'll literally do nothing except get kills. And like the tanks that are well, I don't know.
Hybrid tanks have done well. I think DPS is the only role that applies to.
Yeah, maybe it is just DPS, where like the most all-in specialist that all they do is damage, because damage scales with crits. Those heroes have scaled the best over time.
Yeah, what's funny as she's just talking about Soldier and McCree is that those are two heroes who theoretically, you said, scale with the crit and everything, but their ultimates completely take away any aiming ability from them. So it's kind of ironic how those were structured, where it's like, yeah, here's this hero you can get really good at with aiming and really get really good at, and now you press Q and it's like stop aiming for a while, and it's like, okay,
relax, take a chill pill, just hang out while you cast High Noon.
Exactly, take a sip of water. I don't know, go for a dinner break. I don't know, whatever you want to do, man. But yeah, I think any other thoughts on those guys? The scaling, the hit scan, Soldier McCree. Nope. All right. In that case, I'm gonna head to my next question. I'm gonna head back over to Yeatle now, as promised. I do have another question for you, friend.
All right.
So this theoretically this applies to all characters, but I think tanks feel this the most. Is CC still like over CC and chain CC? Is that still a problem?
I mean, you're asking the wrecking ball player, dude. I think my opinion is a little bit biased on that. Of course, I hate CC, but I think it's kind of like it's fair, right? Because if a McCree throws a stun, that's his get out of jail card. It's gone. Somebody can kill him now in the 1v1. Same thing with Ana. I think CC is kind of fine. It's not too big of a problem. Like I had a problem with Brig. Brig definitely shield bash whip, and it's like doesn't really have to aim too hard, but and doesn't have to really give out the get out of jail card because she's a tank of her own. But like I don't know. Personally, I don't think CC is as big of a problem, especially right now. Like what is it right now? Right now, it's just the two hit scan heroes, Hog and Zarya. Like there's not too much CC except for on a sleep dart, I guess, and Coach Gun for Mash maybe. It's not that big of a deal, I think.
KarQ,
This
had
was
you
just
Feels worse
bad.
before.
It's just bad when they're all meta at the same time. By
Yeah.
far. When it was like what Sombra May.
I think
Ray.
Orisa is
Mhm.
like the most extreme in the game because there's no like Halt.
Yeah.
We're talking about Halt being the best ability in the game
Yeah.
because it's just like
That was
just
ridiculous.
destroys everything. Like there's no
They'd pull you
counters
over
to
May
Halt.
walls. They'd pull
Except
you
being
over like
Orisa
safe
is the one
corners.
Yeah.
one counter to Halt is being Orisa. just be
God.
Orisa. Too bad we
Yeah.
can't pick 6
But-
Orisas.
Is that another case though of when it's meta we feel it, when it's not meta we don't feel it, but then it's still a problem even if it's not meta, right? Like the theory of chain CCing still exists and could easily come back should certain buffs and nerfs occur. So is it like an issue that needs to be addressed, or is it fine?
I think it's fine. Like like I said, I don't think it's a problem right now. I think some of these problems, I mean, some of the things when it's a problem, that's when it's got to get addressed. But like, I don't really see it doing much. There's a lot to like combat it. We got shields, we got bubbles, we got matrix. There's a lot. I think.
Yeah, I think it is really a problem of stacking, right? It's not a problem getting
Individually.
CC'd
but-
1-2 times.
Yeah.
I think the reason I think Orisa is like I want to highlight it so much is because Halt had like no counterplay. Like most heroes in the game can't dodge it. Like they just can't. Like no matter what you do, or like it just countered your movement ability. Like to the point where you should just accept that you're going to get halted and then jump out with your movement ability. But the problem with that is that like when it's Halt into Sigma Halt into Briggs getting bashing you into your stunned into like the Halt was like the ultimate starter of everything because most of those abilities, like getting accretioned by Sigma or hooked by Roadhog, it's like, well, I mean, they're skill shotting you. So it's like, you need to just not get skill shot or like play around it. But the Halt has for most heroes, has no counterplay. So that like, it would be like, you don't feel like you got skill shot when you got Halt rocked. You're like, shouldn't have flanked. Like, that's what you think. Like, I just shouldn't have been there. That's like the actual correct decision is just go Widowmaker and don't do that anymore and sit in the back. And then she can't get me with it. And like if you're just playing Soldier, it's like there's literally nothing you can do about that. So you just don't play Soldier. And I think like that's what made the meta so good, I think, is because there's no like you could just always CC somebody who, like unless they're like Tracer who flanks you, like pretty much everyone else is getting Halt rocked. So that's what made that combo so disgusting is you're just like going to get the combo off almost every time. And that's what makes the chain feel so bad. If you're getting like, I don't know, Sig rocked into Roadhog hook, that's like, yeah, it's just as bad of a chain CC, but it's also like somebody skill shotted you at some point there. There was no, and like Brig is obviously so short range, and same with McCree. I think if you take out Orisa, it's not such a bad thing because generally you're getting skill shot in order to get CC.
Orisa made made everything not a skill shot just because it was
Exactly.
static at that
It
point.
makes it free. Like the stuff that's supposed to be skill shots is now free, which makes
On
it
an
feel
8-second
really
cooldown.
terrible to get hit by it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And obviously
So we're
there's
saying-
there's ults, but there's just ults.
Yeah, so we're saying that kind of like Orisa's existence and the brokenness of Halt is actually what kind of exacerbated the chain CC problem to make it feel more prevalent than it really was.
Yeah,
Is
when you
that
like
fair?
flash 5 people off of you get the Earth Shadow flash off of the hull. It's like, okay, cool.
Like if you think about it, stuns close range, sleep dart, single target, and it's a skill shot, and it's her get out of jail card. But Orisa, it's not her get out of jail card. It gets a bunch of people. It has aim assist to it because how big the radius is what I mean. And it basically like stuns you fast, longer than any ability other than I guess maybe sleep dart or freeze. So yeah, Orisa is just literally the worst of it. It's not hard to hit. It's got maximum range too. So yeah.
Yeah, that crazy meters. One thing I would add to that is I think and I will try again. I'll try to speak for the tank mains in Plat who are sitting there on the Reinhardt and just like, I get frozen, I get flashbanged, I get brig bashed. I think it does feel worse on certain characters, particularly tanks, I think. So there could be an argument to be made about like, because Steadfast is, I think, a great way of addressing this, is that here's this big giant German dude, but if like one little flashbang hits him, he's like equally as bothered by it as like this petite British girl. So they added the Steadfast, which both works in a lore sense, but also practically, Ryan is going to eat more CCs than a Tracer or a flanking DPS will. So perhaps there's a case to be made for big fat tanks to have a little bit more immunity, at least to chain CC. I think it's the chaining that is really the problem. I don't think getting CC'd like at all, like once, is ever really an issue. It's more the, and again, that issue only applies to tanks, because if you're a DPS, you probably don't have the HP pool to survive 3 stuns anyways. You're probably already dead. But yeah, being like slapped and flashbanged and hacked and all that shit at once, I think is an issue. So how do we feel about like some sort of, again, scaling with tanks? I don't know, the number of CCs one after the other.
I'm not sure how balanced this would be, but I think something I thought about a while back ago is, what if like you couldn't stack the CC? Like for instance, if a McCree goes for a stun on you and then an Ana sleeps you like while you're like, as the stun's going off, it just overrides. Like the first stun's the one that hits you, type of thing. Rather than I got stunned, now I'm slept, and now I'm this or that. Like it would add more of a like, let's not all press our CC abilities on this dude. More of a coordinator or whatever. That's something I thought about.
I actually have something else to add on that.
Dudes, though, right? Like,
oh, sorry, go ahead,
usually,
Jake.
like the dude runs in and everyone just throws their CC because he's in, you know. And I feel like, I don't know. I don't like changes that add like exceptions to the game where it's like, this just doesn't work. Like without, like people who saying like, don't play 2 shield tanks at once. It's like, dude, like what do you mean you can't play? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like a bad.
Yeah.
It's like a
Actually,
I think the changes is less bad, but like imagine like exactly that situation where like the dude's like, you know, whatever, the Genji's flying in and you sleep. Oh, but wait, my McCree flashed the Genji, so he's fine and he kills us all. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Like, one idea I did have, actually, one thing you touched on, Jake, is something people asked me to ask you guys about, so I will bring that up again. But one idea I had was for tanks in particular to have a rage mechanic. So basically, let's say that taking that, like, I think it would have to be individually balanced for each of the tanks. But let's say taking a certain amount of damage built a rage for each tank. So if you're Reinhardt and let's say you eat 500 damage on your shield or 100 damage on your body, it gives you a percentage increase of how much you're going to reduce CC time on you. So if you're at 100, if you're like at maximum rage, CC is 50% less effective on you. So just another way of like, again, it kind of addresses 2 problems. One is obviously the chain CC. The other being, again, it tells you when you're doing something good on tank. It's like, you blocked enough damage. Good job. Here's your reward. Now you're stronger.
I like something like that for Ryan in terms of like a rework, but I think that's shouldn't be for every tank. I think that should be like, that's like a great, I think I like the way to buff heroes with that, like a new mechanic that allows them to like scale in an interesting or unique way that gives them more of a unique role. Like for instance, exactly for Ryan, that could make sense. I don't think any other tank though has the same, Ryan's like the melee tank though, right? So he's like the ultimate. I do nothing unless I'm point blank. So I'm like, and most of the CCs are even like on a sleep, right? It's like theoretically it's infinite range, but like not really, like, you know what I mean? Like it's not, it's by far the best when you're just right in somebody's face and you just sleep them point blank. And then it's like by far better. Generally, you're not even going to go for like the long range sleeps because it's too risky and for the value of the ability. So for someone like Ryan, who's like, he's going to eat everything, flash, freeze, like he just has to be at that range. He has no, you can't be like Zarya or whatever at max beam range and like Donna's probably going to miss a sleep on you. So I think for something like Ryan, I like a mechanic that gives him something new and unique that is like maximizable, you know, scalable. But I don't think every tank should be like,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Arista
already
has
costs
45.
1200 HP. You kind of like, what are you gonna fucking do if you can't chain CC that? Like, you just can't win.
Yeah, it'd be busted on Wrecking Ball for sure.
Yeah.
It'd be broken.
Just pop a rage. You're like, guys, they got full health. Just log my shield.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about the exploitability of it on a Wrecking Ball. I mean, I did think it would be scaled, so it would be much harder to build on a Wrecking Ball. But even then, yeah, you're right. It'd probably be.
But I like it on something like Ryan. Like Ryan could use the help So like a hero that actually needs the help should get a mechanic like that, rather than just like everybody has it now. Winston has 2 rages, like it's like okay.
Well, if they ever needed to buff Primal Rage, that might be a way to go. But we probably don't need that world. I don't think we'll ever enter that world. Hopefully not. Maybe a year down the line, I'll call you guys again, and you'll be like, well, we need to buff Primal Rage now, guys. Everything got way broken, so Winston needs help. But okay, any other thoughts on that, KarQ? Before there's another question that Jake kind of alluded to that I do want to ask you guys.
No.
Okay, well,
Not really.
Again, chat wanted me to ask, or just chat and Reddit and stuff wanted me to ask you guys, should there be limitations on like shield tank numbers? Like you said, Jake, like there shouldn't be a restriction on playing 2 shield tanks at once. Should there be limitations on like, so we have roll lock, which is a limitation on what you can do. Should there be even more specialized roll lock of like no 2 hit scans, no 2 X healer, no 2 shields?
No.
I think even roll lock is like a sad thing. I think I wanted roll lock to happen because I just didn't have faith anymore that they could balance goats off. Like I just thought it's gonna be meta forever, and I think it literally might still be meta if it was allowed. Like even with all the Brigners, I don't know if it even matters. Like the AOE stacking is just ridiculous. When you stack a Diva Matrix AOE on a healing AOE on a Reinhardt protecting his whole team, it's just like gives too much opportunities to stack AOEs and scale off those things. So I think even roll lock itself is like a necessary evil because they won't balance for pro level. And I think adding more that is like it should be like the absolute last resort. Like you should definitely nerf the heroes before you do that, because it's super like it wouldn't even make sense. Like you can't play Ryan Winston, like the comp sucks, like why would you ban that comp? It's literally only Orisa Sigma. Like that's it, right? Like the other Ryan Sigma is not even abusive. It like could lose to Ryan Zara really easily, and Ryan Orisa is like it has certain really powerful combos with Fire Strike and Amp Window or whatever, but it's very limited, does very limited range poke, etc. It's just literally just Orisa Sigma being broken playing together, and you shouldn't make this like esoteric rule to just answer one comp being broken, unless it's fucking
ironically what we did with 222.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I don't think that's theoretically a good thing. I think that is literally a facet of them being unwilling to nerf Brig hard enough, and like they should have just nerfed Brig and not done it. But I accepted that they weren't going to nerf Brig, so I was like, please just give us 222 so we can play DPS again, or else I'm going to quit. And like, I don't want to play anymore if I can't play DPS heroes. And I think that 222 it's a necessary evil, but I think it is not a good thing theoretically speaking.
More limitations, yeah.
Honestly, and same for like shield tank. It's just like it would have all these unintended consequences that are unhealthy.
I think if the game was in its current state in open queue, I think like replacing Brig with like Baptiste or something might even be better right now if you were to play it in modern day now that they actually gutted Brig quite a bit. I think a Baptiste should be pretty fun.
True. I think you're probably right. Bap would probably be better. But like I think like people would still play triple tank, like because tanks are just really good when you play 3. Like the more tanks you play, the more they get even better and better the more you play. Like
the more tanks you play, the more the healing gets stronger because they're all being the same area.
Get stronger. So heroes like Moira now do have scaling because you're stacking 6 people on top of each other, or something like Trance gets scaling because you stack 6 people on top of a Trance. It's like ridiculous.
Yeatle, how do you feel about
low-key scaling things of like put all your teammates inside of a matrix? That's pretty good.
Now it's busted. Yeah, Yeatle, how do you feel about just the general idea of role restrictions, but also let's discuss role lock as well. But yeah, go ahead. First, the intro role restrictions.
Well, like initially you said that like putting a ban on something like double shield. I also agree. I don't think that makes any sense. Like it's just a product of Orisa being probably the most unkillable tank and Sigma just being probably the safest off angler in the game. So you combo those 2 things, and that's really the problem. And throw shields in there, I guess. But yeah. Sorry, what was the?
So the second question is just how do you feel about 222 compared to role lockless world?
I think 222 was actually slightly more necessary because if you think about it, tanks is obviously the most OP role in the game, right? They have more health than everybody. They have a lot of damage and probably arguably the best utility and ultimates and whatnot. So like even before goats, I think we said earlier, like quad tank, triple tank was the thing. So it would have to be like an all around nerf to all the tanks. And I don't know. I think role queue is actually healthy in that regard for keeping tanks not the only played role for the most part. That's my
Yeah,
thought.
yeah. I think that's fair. It kind of answers the question I was going to ask later, which is what is the most broken role or what's the strongest role? So tanks. Is that kind
Yeah,
of the
sorry,
feeling?
I two-parted that, I guess. Yeah, tanks
No,
for
no,
sure.
perfectly fine. I think
Yeah,
I kind of knew everyone was going to say tanks, but I had to ask the question anyways.
yeah.
Tanks
Like
without
I said,
restrictions, though. Like in the role lock restriction, people are saying half the tanks are unplayable and they're not good just because.
Yeah, I still think tanks are like theoretically the best heroes because you would just play more of them if you could. You would cut DPS every time
Yeah.
for more tanks. You might even cut a support for a tank, like because
mm,
they're just better heroes. Like you said, like just it's just better, man.
yeah,
Like the
more
overall
health,
tanks
more
are,
utility, and crazy damage, dude.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, why would I play like? For instance, if you're playing a Rhine comp, why would you ever play a 2 DPS? Like it's just bad. You just want a
Mm,
Zarya and a Diva. You want two things to protect Rhine. So now he can go super ham, and then Rhine's a DPS now because he's got two tanks keeping him alive instead of just one. So now instead of just only relying on your Zarya bubble and that's your ability to be aggressive, it's like I'm swinging with a Zarya bubble and a speed boost. Now I'm Matrix and I'm still swinging. And
yeah,
finally, then my Zarya's in front of me with thrown bubble and I'm still swinging. And then like 5 seconds into the fight, you have to hold shield. And then like, okay, Rhine's pretty good if that's how you can play. But if you're relying on like one enabler, well, Ryan doesn't really enable himself, so one enabler is actually not that much.
Yeah. I so I have a theory. I think with these recent changes that Blizzard have put in, I think they've clearly shown us that they're experimenting with the idea of less tanks in the game. Basically, previously with the a while back the experimental card they did with the 132, this patch as well. I think they've kind of I think they've got sick of us complaining about shields and they're like, all right, then fuck shields. We'll just reduce it all. And I think we are, at least in the current meta, gravitating for the most players. Again, at Overwatch League, this probably won't be the case. But for the most players, we're gravitating towards a more DPS style comp. Do we think that this is complete theory crafting and hypothetical? But do we think that like Overwatch 2, what direction is going to take tanks in particular and comps overall? Like, are we going to go more towards 1-3-2? Is there a world where Overwatch 2 is going to lift role lock, or do you think we're going to stay stable on 2-2-2 kind of world? Because there's the other issue of like roll times, like queue times as well.
I mean, I think the thing about Overwatch 2 is makes it very hard to predict is like if like I don't know, I don't have any inside info, but if they drop a lot of heroes at the same time, I think that will shift the game like so radically that it's very possible to make very macro changes like changing role lock or whatever. Like I think like there's never been a time when they dropped a lot of heroes at once and that would just like completely change everything because
Like
if they
5 or
drop
6
like
heroes.
5 or 6 heroes, yeah, that's like a complete game changer. I mean, dropping
Yeah.
one hero has oftentimes completely changed the game.
Yep.
Like if
See
that
Brig.
one hero is strong.
Well, Sigma and Brig, yeah.
Yeah, like Sigma and Brig have like, oh, I'm just gonna play this hero forever now. Like, okay, like let's go. And I think that doing a lot of heroes at once like that, it also is gonna have this effect. Like right now, everyone's playing Roadhog even to the highest rank, but I think that's mostly because people like just want to play Roadhog. There's like a pent up desire to play
Yeah.
Roadhog.
Yeah.
Like for years, literally years. Because Hero's been like an actual
Suppressed,
griefer hero for
oppressed.
years, and now is like close to playable. As you said, SVP.
It's like that with Genji as well.
It's like yeah, the desire is like oh finally, and that's the same thing for me. Like I do when Genji was playable, I was like, dude, this is so, like Genji's been literally like you're griefing the game to go Genji for like 2 years, and then like since Brig dropped, you just don't play that hero anymore, and then it's like holy shit, it's playable again. This is sick. I'm gonna play nothing but Genji. So kind of hits back this idea that hard counters aren't the most healthy thing for the game. Like one hero hard countering another. But it's also the nature of Overwatch. There's shit like hack that's like completely imbalanced. It's just like shouldn't really be in the game probably, but it is, so we gotta live with it.
But is that again? They have shown willingness to change certain aspects of their core philosophy. Again, think back. First, they were like adamant that they wouldn't change the fact that you could all be the same hero. They were like, no, everybody can be Winston if they want to, and then they changed that. Then they were like, no, we'll never add role lock. You guys should play 3 tanks all the time, and then they changed that. So maybe they. I mean, and you know, Jeff, and they changed the offense defense, which Jeff still says was his sort of biggest regret with the game. So maybe they will change that aspect.
What do you mean, like offense defense? Like,
well, you remember there were offense and
defense
defense heroes, and then they
Oh,
added it just, and it became just
yeah,
damage.
Categorically,
yeah,
categorically.
which is so funny because like half the defense heroes were just
Or better
garbage
on offense, yeah.
better on attack. Yeah, they were just like really poorly thought out. But
Jeff did say that basically. So again, for anyone who doesn't understand the context, Jeff said that in a recent Q&A, someone asked like, "What was your biggest regret with the game?" He said, "My biggest regret was taking away the offense defense because it would have been better to have heroes balanced only for defense. For example, Torb. If you only had to balance him for defense, it would have been fine. But they had to rework him because he was garbo on attack, and they didn't want to have heroes who were just completely garbage in one round and like like a throw pick in the other, or like a must pick in the other." So carry on now.
Well, yeah, they've shown willingness to like actually make significant changes if there's enough like reason to, enough outcry, and
yeah,
like if it warrants it. The game evolves, people evolve, the players evolve. Up putting 5 new heroes in the game if Overwatch 2 comes out. Hypothetically, I don't know anything either. 5 plus, like even just one single hero, like completely gutted, like 5 different heroes that you couldn't play into, like Brig or whatever. So if you put 5 in, that it could shake things so much that we just drop roll queue completely just for a little bit until like things settle down, and then we have to reassess and maybe put a different restriction on. Maybe there will be some sort of sub roll lock where it's like
Hero
queues.
bans.
Yeah.
I would actually love to see a
Revisit
sort
hero
of
bans.
like any. I like having some sort of way to adjust heroes, like the potential of no roll lock and like no bans at all is super unhealthy, I think, for the professional meta for like a game, because you can switch your hero whenever you want in Overwatch. It actually creates and everyone can play the same hero. It creates the possibility of just mirror matching forever, which is like not good in my opinion. Like mirror matching should be ideally avoided, because I think it makes the game actually like the least fun when you're in like a pure mirror match. Makes it like the game like the least diverse and interesting. And theoretically, being able to switch your hero all the time should mean that you don't want a mirror match. That usually there's a better pick. But if there's a hard mirror match meta, then that like says to me that there's something wrong, And I guess we still get that sometimes in 2-2-2, but I think it's a lot less prevalent than like before that, where like I feels like maybe 80% of games are mirror matches at the professional level. Like pre-roll lock, where it was like goats, but even before goats, like people mirror match
the snipers. Right.
You don't think they're still incredibly common?
Yeah, they are still really common, but I think it's like gone down with like the hero bans. There's a lot more teams, especially like right when the hero bans drop. There's like a lot more versatility and diversity.
I guess I'm greedy. I want even more, but
yeah. And as far as some things like goats and like really problematic things, I think the thing about having more heroes in the game is you can create heroes that like there's at the time of goats being really dominant, there was like nothing in the game to punish goats, and there still isn't anything in the game to punish goats. But you could easily make a hero that makes goats unplayable. They're like, some hero that like poisons one enemy and then they like deal damage to their allies by being close to them. And like, just you can't group up anymore into this hero. That like, okay, you just can't play goats anymore if you can't group up. Like, it doesn't work. And there's still a lot of like things that don't exist in the game, if that makes sense. Like the more tools there are in the game that are specialized at dealing with certain things, the less you're going to be able to play one comp forever, because there's probably something in the game that counters it theoretically. Where like there's just nothing that worked against goats, because there's nothing that punishes you for standing in a 6 stack besides like dynamite from Ashe, but D.Va eats that.
That's literally what they put Ashe in for, isn't it? Like Ashe came out and everyone's like, she's gonna kill goats because dynamite. And
D.Va, smile.
Lol.
Just eats it.
Yeah. This is something I want to touch on again in a bit, the MOBA elements and taking more, abilities and unique abilities, but then also overlap abilities. But I do want to quickly give Yeatle a chance to speak as well, if he has anything to add on that whole kind of future of Overwatch 2 tanks, no tanks. How do you want to see it?
Only thing I thought about is I think it'd be interesting if like most of the high damage tanks were like toned down and more ability focused. Like that's pretty much all I've thought of. I think that'd be interesting. Just like I don't know.
Roadhog and Zarya.
Yeah, Roadhog, Zarya, or even D.Va, dude. Like D.Va just flies and she has a shotgun and micro missiles. Like, what if they were just more ability focused? Like maybe more fly. I don't know. Maybe it'd make the game too chaotic. Not sure, but it'd be more interesting if tanks weren't like that much of DPS. I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So again, specialize the roles more. Is that kind of what you're suggesting?
Yeah, pretty much.
And if anything, that's a way to make roll lock like more like just better, right? Even if you still have roll lock, then at least the tanks are like all competing to be the best at using abilities, rather than like deciding if you just want an extra DPS, so you play Roadhog, and like I
Making
think
something
that's
the health pool.
yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
And that's like the only real thing in tanks. But even there's heroes like Zarya, where with 400 HP, it's like not that much. She's actually just like a freak mode damage dealer when she's 100 energy.
Probably one of the highest DPS when she's charged.
I think it is literally the highest DPS besides like
Stupid.
Bastion.
like unrealistic cases like Bastion, free shooting and whatever. It's like of course
Yeah.
it's better, but Zarya, I think Zarya is like of the heroes that are actually not jokes, the highest DPS.
Like viably, she's the highest DPS. Like there's nobody is gonna compete with her.
Will most often hit probably like just deals the highest DPS in fight. But again, she's not actually that, because she only does that in rare scenarios where she's 100 energy fighting for a long time, which doesn't happen that much.
Yeah, and that's interesting actually. The idea of kind of cutting down as much role overlap as possible, so that because like we said, if tanks can just do damage and tank, why would you ever pick a DPS? So and that leads me to my next question nicely, which is the battle for this philosophical soul of Overwatch, MOBA versus FPS. Like, how do you guys see it progressing, B, want it to progress? Again, maybe with an eye on Overwatch 2, but just how have you maybe seen it progressing? Some people are saying this patch is like the FPS patch, Double Shield and Goats was like the MOBA patches. So how do you feel on that kind of philosophical conundrum?
I think Overwatch is a unique game. It's like you draw comparisons to both, but at the end of the day, Overwatch is that blend of both. So I mean, while one patch may lean to the other, I think that's a beautiful part of it. A lot of people ask me like, don't you just hate this meta? Like obviously there would be metas I don't like, and like obviously things that are more powerful, and my role is a bit weaker in this meta or whatever. But at the end of the day, I kind of just go by it day by day and just enjoy it for what it is. So, Overwatch is that balance. It doesn't lean too much on one, it doesn't lean too much on the other. I think a lot of people try to force it to lean onto an FPS because it is categorically like an action-based FPS, but I think, if you really want to just play a true FPS, go to Counter-Strike. Like, don't play Overwatch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeatle, you agree?
Yeah, that was really well said, actually. Like, yeah, I can't say it better myself,
game.
honestly.
This is probably why I'm still playing it 4 years later. Surprisingly, it's just like it isn't like anything else I've ever played before. I mean, I never came from TF2, so this is new to me, and I've been enjoying it. So I just go by it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, even though I played competitively in TF2, like arena shooter games, that I also played like 3,000 hours of Dota, and I'm just not like that good at Dota, but like respectably good, like 4.5K or whatever in Dota, which I don't know, it's like probably like Masters or something.
Fake is like, this is an inadvertent advert for 1v1 me, bro, in Dota.
Yeah. I think I think you guys are right though, that like it can never be purely one or the other. But I do think like I think the best parts of the game are when both things are like existing together, and the worst parts of the game are when one of them is completely taking over.
True.
Like for instance, like Widowmaker just destroying you if she hits every shot is like, okay, well, cool. But even for, and there's the opposite side where it's heroes like Brig, there's just no aiming, you like aim once every few seconds to shoot a whip shot.
Yeah, that's too it's just too much
like
for
extreme
MOBA
MOBA focus, right? And like I think those things, like things with aimbot and whatever, it's like those things are like the worst, and like the best parts of the game are when there's a real blend, and when any hero goes too far in one direction. I think generally it's worse when it's in the MOBA direction, though. If you're going to be extreme, at least to be extreme in the FPS direction, where it's like at least the guy has to be like a freak at Widow to actually make it work and hit all the crits.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're being beaten by some shit that's like not hard to do,
I'm accidentally healing my team with like 15k healing per 10 as Brig.
Yeah,
Just because
yeah,
I swung my,
you're just like I'm
shit
just
around a
carrying
little bit.
and I'm not really
I-
making decisions actively. It's like, I
I think-
think there's like Ana or something where like, yeah, she's got these incredibly powerful cooldowns, but you got to hit them, and like that, I
The
think is
beautiful
like
blend.
a sweet spot
Ana's
middle
the perfect.
of
Yeah.
like has these incredible MOBA abilities that like negate a certain type of enemy thing, and like they're just in the right scenario, they're just god tier. You nade a trance, it's like holy shit, he's just AFK on Zen, like, and it's like ridiculous power in terms of a MOBA sense, in terms of like interaction sense, but they're gated by some skill. So when you do get owned by it, it's like, well, fuck, we just got owned, versus things that own you and you're like, dude, this guy doesn't even know what's going on. Like, that's so much more frustrating in my opinion, when there's no aim skill gating it.
I think the problem with some of the mobile elements that have been added is that they've often been interchangeable with like skillless elements. So as we were saying, like Ana's abilities, though MOBA-like, are skillful and difficult to land and always execute consistently. But a lot of the more MOBA-y elements have been like, I guess, like dog whistle for, if you're just shit at the game, just press this button and it will do all the work for you. And that's not how MOBA abilities even work. So we talk about it being like MOBA-esque, but in a MOBA, it would be bad in a MOBA too if an ability was just one press button and it win you game. There's plenty of like
skill shots in there or whatever in MOBAs, don't they? To
Yeah,
to, like,
exactly,
mitigate
right?
that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and
Like there's
a sense of getting maximum value out of it, and things having like punishing cooldowns if you make a mistake, or there's also very different. Like MOBA is like one thing. I think that's like almost the wrong word. There's no game that really there's no like genre that describes it properly. Because the thing about MOBAs is like you can like counter anything in the game with like the right item if you just farm, and like
that's
so
true.
like there's like an
Also
aspect of the game that is like just like understanding the game and making decisions within the game about buying items that just counters like the enemy abilities. And then as the game progresses, it becomes more and more complicated with more and more interactions like that. But the nature of Overwatch is that it's like the same. The only thing is ults, but it's like 1 minute into the game, like every interaction is now available. Like every hero can have their ult or whatever. So I think the interactions need to be balanced a little bit differently.
And I think the top-down versus FPS also makes a big difference. Like top-down, it's a lot easier to see and understand what cooldowns are coming your way and which are and are not being used, as opposed to the rainbow vomit that is an Overwatch screen. And you're trying to, as we said, like trying to understand who's being healed is like an actually difficult thing to do sometimes. So again, I think my summary of that would be, if we add MOBA elements, i.e. just like cooldowns, then they should still be, again, skillful and scalable. I always think back to, I don't always remember the official Dota 2 names. I always remember the Dota All-Stars names, but like Tyranda's arrow, where she shoots. Yeah, like when she shoots the, so basically, for anyone who doesn't know, she shoots like this arrow along the ground, and it will just travel on this trajectory for like a really, really long range. But it's super slow moving, and it's like if you see it coming, it's the most obvious cooldown in the world. Except the longer it travels, the longer it'll stun. So there's this direct incentive of the more ambitious you try to be with this ability, the better it will be. But because it's slow and super obvious, it can't just be executed from downtown. Like everyone will see it coming. So you have to be really sneaky. You have to be like in a corner somewhere. You have to be hiding behind the fog of war. So it's like that. When I think of MOBA abilities, that's what I always think is like a great example of what to aim for. Is like this ability is high, like has a high skill, like has a high reward, has high skill ceiling, but it's also doo-doo if you just don't know how to use it.
Hanzo Dragon.
Well, yeah. Hanzo Dragon.
Unless
Charge
it's
is a good
comboed.
example. Charge is a good example, I think, from Reinhardt.
Yeah,
It's like
you
if
just
you
hide
misexecute
Execute
that,
death if you mess it up.
you just feed, yeah. So that would be my hope.
It's like having that scaling of some sort. It doesn't necessarily have to be FPS aim scaling, but some kind of scaling. Like, for the love of God, don't make rally, or you just press your button and like everybody's immortal. Like, I think even abilities like trance, I don't think are like the best design. At least trance has like more of a burst, right? It doesn't last that long. So you have to the scaling is about when exactly to use it, and you also can't do anything when you're trancing. You can't be aggressive. So you're going all in on being.
There's a cost to it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like negatives, but there's just no negatives in rally. You're just like, I'm just good at now. And like
release rally. There's
fighting.
no negative to just cast it and just let it sit.
Yeah, and
God,
like
if you fight,
The one negative is like they're also playing Brig, so if they get a better rally, but like
they're
you
gonna
know,
later
like,
rally, so you're fucked.
yeah, exactly. But that's like the only negative is it's countered by the other person doing it better, which isn't really a counter. It's just like something that would be true no matter how poorly designed the abilities were.
Yeah, exactly. So that actually leads me on nicely to what I'll say is the concluding segment on this, because I know I've eaten your guys' time long enough. So what I'll ask you guys each is, what would you like to see most, in particular for your role? But this could be, you can say generally as well, but particularly for your role, come Overwatch 2. Like, what do you want to see? Like, let's say you might say for tanks, I want to see more diversity of tanks. Or you might say like, oh, for DPS, I want to see more DPS that are crit, have crit hitboxes and scale, or whatever it is that you might be. So what do you want to see for your role in particular, or for Overwatch in general? Yeatle, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Unfortunately, you're up first because you're the closest to me.
Oh,
so.
good. I hate to be a broken record, but I kind of said my part earlier, where I think less damage, more abilities would be really cool. I'm a big fan of skill shots. If there's more skill shots for tanks, that would be really cool too. Like ability shots, not like just shoot them, But yeah, like I said, I kind of said my part. More abilities, less damage, in my opinion. That's what I hope to see in Overwatch 2. And more tanks. Yeah, more tanks.
Yeah, we're starved out here for tanks. Actually, we don't have many.
Yeah.
KarQ.
Probably like some sort of. This is more of a complaint when the CC stacking was a problem, but another support or some sort of ability that has a cleanse effect, like not just a Zarya bubble, but something to actually remove an effect. Like obviously the Zarya bubble,
Earth Shatter or something.
Yeah, exactly. I instantly get them up from an Earth Shatter, or if they're slept, I can like wake them up like a poke flute. I don't fucking know. Something to just,
It would be like a sick counterplay if the Ryan drops a Shatter and then like the Ana is just like so instant with the cleanse. They're just like already fighting. It's like they never got shattered. They're just perfect with the cleanse. And that's, you see that in MOBAs, right? Like
in MOBAs, exactly. Yeah. It exists in MOBAs, which is exactly that. But I think it has to be single target. It cannot be like a group AoE thing.
Oh god, please.
By any stretch. Yeah.
Like the fade.
Like the fade. That's what I mean. Like I like the idea that Blizzard went with the Moira fade, which gave her like a lot more skill component to it with it. But I was like, there's no way it has to be like a group. You could like choose someone to free them. Or like if you're gonna do the group, the range has to be really tiny, but like she can't have it as well.
Again, I think sorry, go ahead, KarQ. I don't want to interrupt.
Oh no. Because when they first like announced that whole change with the Moira fading thing, it was like, remember when like you were able to free like people from Grav or Sigmazalt, right? But like for example with the Grav though, like the thing about that Moira fade is like even after you faded, and then as soon as your fade came out, you also got the effect to like release to not get CC'd or whatever, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. So I thought it'd be cool like if your team got grabbed and you decide to fade into them, and then once the fade ends, everybody else gets freed, but like at the cost of you don't get the effect as well. But like she also got the effect at the end of her own fade. So she fades and she's also disappearing. And then at the end of it, she was also invulnerable for like whatever, 1 second. I'm like, bro, that's like too much in one. But little things to kind of help with CC. I don't know what it's called. Is it called BKB in Dota or no?
Yeah, the
that's
Black
an
King
item.
bar.
Yeah, the Black King bar that makes you invulnerable.
There's also a lot of things that go through the Black King bar that like, so there's like not a lot of things actually, to be fair. It's like
there's some things, yeah.
But there are some skills that are like BKB piercing, and that makes them, or magic immunity piercing, because there's other ways to get magic immunity from different heroes and stuff. But yeah, I think Dota has also evolved a lot, where back in the day the BKB was like the only way to resist things. Now there's this stat called status resistance that was like I believe a couple of years ago added, to where things just like all stuns hit you for less time, and all slows, everything, like just the statuses don't last as long. But that's also like there's a bunch of things to mitigate it. For instance, like if you stack a bunch of it, it's less and less effective. So you can't, it's very hard to get to like 90% status resistance. You can't get there really. Like each time you buy more status resistance items, it's like diminishing returns.
It's diminishing returns, yeah.
And also the BKB, the charge, the length of the BKB gets smaller every time you use it. So it's like punishing to you can't just keep pushing the button.
10-second BKB, and the next one is 9, and it goes down to 5, and then you're 5 for the rest of the game. And so like the item has inherent scaling. But the thing about MOBAs that makes it in a way a lot easier to do is that you can just make the item, if it's too good, you just make it cost more. and like, or you make the stats worse, and like you keep the effect can be good, but then you just have so many, you have way more levers to change things. Where I think in Overwatch it's like just harder to adjust things in that small way. But I think you make a good point about there's certainly some way to make a cleanse balance, right? You just limit it in certain ways.
I mean, Zarya already has it inherently, along with like being a 200 HP shield and giving her charge. Like,
but her cleanse only works on certain things. Like it doesn't make you stand up out of sleep or shatter. It only kills you from effects that are like
freeze or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So like an all-around cleanse on a support hero individually. It won't give him like a 200 HP shield to give you energy or whatever, but just something to free them from a CC. So like that counterplay, exactly like you said, Earth enemy shatters, but then you like time it perfectly as if they stood up the whole time. Like if you time it on your Rhine and then your Rhine starts his like shatter for free, or I don't know.
It makes sense. Like there's some sick plays available at that type of
like trust me, Reinhardt, just do it. Push the Q. Don't block the shatter.
But it's punishing if you mistime it, so there's still a skill component to it. And it's like a straight up like it's an ability. It would change a lot of interactions, and yeah, that's probably something I'd look forward to if on a new support hero in Overwatch too, along with more support heroes with like cooler ideas that don't come out broken on release. Please test them.
Yeah, and I think the single target thing is important because again, with the single target comes a cost and benefit. Like you have to choose a person. You have to go full Pokemon and Pikachu. I choose you.
Anything with like everybody around you has this thing is like not healthy in my opinion. Just like the whole regen burst and inspire, like just for free. Literally 6 people get this amazing effect, or literally like no thought put into it. So
yeah, again, you don't even have to know who's near you.
Yeah. Just limiting targets and any sort of things that just promote decision making, active decision making, and skillfulness is probably the right direction to head to.
Yeah.
At this stage of the game.
That brings us to the person representing the most heroes currently, Jake. The burden is on you now.
I think the number one thing I'd like to see is obviously I think even as DPS player there should be like more tanks and supports coming than DPS. Like obviously I'd like some new DPS, but like if it was 5, then it should be like 2, 1, 2, and like like 2 tanks, 2 supports, 1 heal, 1 DPS. Because I think ideally, like especially with 2-2-2, there should be like ideally the same amount of all roles. I think part of the biggest thing I'd like to see in the long run for DPS is I'm obviously super biased as a projectile player, but I think projectile should be on equivalent footing with hit scan in terms of value. And if you think back in Overwatch, that has just never been true. Like there's like when's the meta where you play 2 projectile heroes? Ever. Like I really can't.
Maybe like specific maps, but no, not really.
Yeah, but like has there ever been a dominant comp that included 2 projectile heroes? No. And yet like maybe. I literally can't think of one though.
Clockwork Vendetta meta, the brief period, maybe.
Yeah, like
Simtorb.
Made Doom for like a second.
Yeah, but then people play like Reaper Doom or Reaper. Like the problem is that Hitscan has like fundamentally better consistency for high level players, and I feel like I don't know how you fix that with like the scaling problems as we discussed earlier, but I'd love to see more like projectile heroes. Like I think the healthiest meta for DPS would be one where it's 1 projectile and 1 hit scan. In terms of like the health of like it's the most common place for DPS players to be split where you only play one or the other. And as somebody who like used to be hardcore focusing projectiles and then like learned to play like McCree and Widow and Ashe and Tracer and like all the hit scan heroes basically over like the time playing professionally and still now, I think while it was fun for me and really cool for me to like learn the other roles, I think that is like it's the most unhealthy thing in the game when you'll have a meta where there's no projectile heroes and there's 2 hit scan heroes, or vice versa. It would be bad for there to be no hit scan heroes that are playable, but it happens a lot more to projectiles, I feel, than hit scan, which is something to do with like the consistency at a very high level of hit scan. But I'd love to see one thing is probably more super high mobility stuff. I think that's the most interesting DPS in the game. It's like Tracer, Genji, Doomfist. I think those are the top 3 most interesting heroes in the game from a DPS player perspective. I don't think it's really close from like unique mechanics. Like I think Genji is like the most interesting FPS character ever designed with dash reset and the theoretical potential of the hero being completely through the roof. You could just dash into somebody at max dash range and one-shot them if you're a god, but no one's good enough to do that, so they don't even try. It's like so unrealistic. But I think Doom and Tracer are also examples of when you make a character with incredible movement potential, become something like really amazing and beautiful in a way that has just unlimited potential. So I think more high mobility and then a better balance between projectile and hit scan, where like it just shouldn't be the case that you have no viable projectile heroes for the high level. Like I think like that's like not healthy for the game.
Yeah, I think that's
At least for
good.
DPS players.
Those are, I mean, all of you, I think, made very reasonable demands. Some more humble than the other. Jake, the most ambitious, but I respect it. I think I think what you said was, I think would be great for the game, basically. Yeah, for me personally, I think from this conversation, I think the scalability is the thing that really stuck out to me. Is I think a direction that Overwatch should aim for. I think we should definitely. Because a lot of the complaints that particularly the community have end up being almost, what's the word, symptoms, and not the addressing the actual virus, as it were, right? Is they're like, oh, CC's too much or shields are too much, but they all come from the fact that heroes just end up not being able to scale, so they have to just buff them to a stupid level, and then power creep happens, and then all that shit. So in a way, if we add scalability, I guess the game balances itself in a much larger sense, and then you only have to do lesser tweaks. I'd quite like that, and to be greedy, I'd also like more tank characters, please, Blizzard, for Overwatch 2. Fella out here with only like 7 heroes to pick from, so that would be nice. But other than that, guys, it has been an absolute treat to talk to you. For God, it's been 2 hours 45 minutes. So the marathon, thank you so much for joining me, giving me all this much of your time. I'm sure chat appreciates it. I'm sure anyone who's watching this is appreciating, whether now on Twitch or later on YouTube. So I'm very, very grateful for your time. I'm really glad that you guys were able to join me, and yeah, I cannot thank you enough. So thank you guys for joining me. Any parting words?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Subscribe to SVB. Woo.
True. Twitch Prime.
Yeah. Give me your Twitch primes. Don't give them to SVB.
It's like follow SVB but subscribe to Jake. That's the format. Well, yeah, thank you so much, guys. I think I won't give Jake my sub, but I will hit the raid button on Dante, because I know Jake was talking earlier on his stream about raiding Overwatch League players, and who better than his buddy Dante. So we'll say hello to Dante. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. The only plug I will make is that on Friday I'm doing a charity stream, so please do come down. It's for Pank 1, so they'll be raising money for combating pancreatic cancer. So if you are available, please do come down, and please find in your heart to donate. Friday, 3 p.m. EST. So that's roughly the time, I think. But other than that, again, thank you so much, guys. Jake, Yeatle, KarQ, guys, Jake, Yeatle, KarQ. Will bring up all these guys' socials. I'm sure you're already following them. I know you're already following these guys. I know you're already up on their content, but please do check them all out. All amazing content creators in their own way. So please make sure you show them some love. And yeah, otherwise, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Say hello to Dante and have a good rest of your day, guys. Peace out.
See ya.
Bye, guys. Peace.
Peace.